Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Health meeting. It is Monday, October 21st. It is 6:04 p.m. and I'd like to call the meeting to order. The second item on the agenda is to review the agenda and add or remove any items. Does anybody have anything to change?
Just want to add an item, if I may, and I'll do it right now. This is the first opportunity I've had since it became official. I am resigning from the town of Auburn. I've taken employment in a other municipality. I've really enjoyed my time in Auburn. I've been through many boards, every one of them having their own challenges and their own appreciations. But I just wanted to let the board officially know that as of Friday of this week, I will be done in the town of Auburn.
Thank you. Good luck.
You'll be missed.
We wish you all the luck and hope things go well for you and a good new challenge for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other agenda items to add or remove?
Let me just run out and get my glasses.
Okay. All right, at this point, we have a bill schedule to approve. We have two items for Santa Fe Pasteur, which is our flu vaccine, I believe, in a total of $2,618.83. And then we have our public health nurse at Cheryl Winsky. So if everyone wants to just take a quick look at those.
Quick look.
And then we have a set of minutes to approve, which just, I believe there's only two of us that were here for the meeting on that one.
Right, you were.
So, let's see. Steve, you want to check those out?
These balloons are gonna go away before the hearing, right?
Whatever.
I'll make a motion to accept the bill schedule as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second?
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. It's 3-0 to accept the bill schedule as presented. Next order of business is Board of Health meeting 9/9/2013. And that was, Steve and myself were the two present at that meeting. Steve, did you notice anything omitted?
Nothing came out to me.
Okay, I had no issues either. Do you have,
Make a motion to accept as presented.
second the motion? How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. 2-0 to accept the motion to accept the minutes.
Of 9/9/2013,
9/9/2013.
2013.
That works. Okay. So we have a little bit of time before the first hearing. So agenda items. A was food code fees review and prepare for a public hearing.
We presented the board with the final draft of the food code with the amendments that they recommended at the last meeting. Last chance to consider, actually, it's not the last chance, but it's the last chance before the hearing to consider, is it adequate? Is the board happy with the regulations as I said? Are there any tweaks that we have to do?
I looked through them, we spoke on them at the last meeting, and I did not see anything to change. We did make some small changes that day, didn't we, Darlene? We made a few. Nothing major, but it was just some wording, and I think we changed one or two small items, and that was it. I read them over this weekend, and I am happy with the way they sit. Marion,
Yes.
how do you feel about the?
I read them over myself, and we've reviewed them several times, and I believe should go as it is.
Okay, Steve, how do you feel?
That's fine.
Okay, so if there's no other review, we can move on to the next item. Any questions or concerns from the peanut gallery? Which would be you or Darlene? Should I start calling you Charlie Brown, so.
Oh, I get
It's
it.
the last time we're gonna be having meetings, so I might as well mess with your head now.
No, Darlene and I went through it page by page. We're satisfied with the final product, or the product as it sits right now. Obviously, based on what comments come in tonight, we'll determine if the board wants to make further amendments, but
Okay.
it's been a 3-year operation.
Yes.
Obviously, a lot of stuff
Minimum
got in the
3
way,
years.
but I think it's a good product.
Okay.
Fee schedule. We may have some issues with, we got a determination back from legal.
Okay.
We cannot charge for 501c3s,
Okay.
charitable events. The charitable events have to be, where is charitable events?
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit clubs.
Yeah.
To be determined, that is going to be
0.
0, and we're gonna enter in there per whatever section of the code that is, that
Okay.
states we can't do that. And I will restate this once we get into the hearing for the fee schedule. There is also one other item.
My question, Andy, on the nonprofits pursuant to specific regulation, it's 0?
Yes,
Could we just leave it at that, pursuant to, and cite the regulation?
that, yeah.
Without putting a dollar amount down?
Oh.
Because I'm thinking if in the future, that regulation is changed by the state legislature, and they now allow a $10, $5, 50-cent
Yep.
fee,
Now, my question on that is, they have to show their certificate, correct?
We
They don't-
will.
All right, and it has to match the name, you know, you don't want somebody having one and it doesn't match. If it's supposed to be Boy Scouts, the name is Boy Scouts, whatever pack number it is, and,
So
All right.
what we have been doing since Andy and I kind of
Discovered this law.
discovered this over the past several months, is we have had the nonprofit, if they indicate that they are a nonprofit, we have them provide documentation of their tax exempt. It's almost like a certificate. So it's a tax exempt identification number. So they'll submit that along with the application and the menu and everything else that we normally would do. And if we don't get that, we do have to charge.
Okay.
But, you know, so I still think we have a temporary fee in here, which we would charge in lieu of them providing a tax exempt certification. So that will, that's been working out for us pretty well.
Good.
You know, if they come in and they put in the application and they have everything except that, you know, they'll send it in to Paula, and then Paula marries all the paperwork. So it's been working out pretty well.
Good. Now, I have a question. What I see in some towns is churches actually lease out their kitchens to caterers because caterers need a commercial kitchen. We're collecting a fee from the caterer, but we're still not collecting a fee from the church, correct?
Correct.
Well, that would be, that's gonna fall under nonprofit, correct, Andy?
Okay.
If they're operating under the church's license, it would fall under nonprofit.
But if they're doing, if they're
pulling a
using,
separate license,
yeah, because they
And
want to use a
sharing the
kitchen
kitchen?
so they can, you know, cook food and bring it to an event, and they need to have, per the code,
Right.
you need to have a commercial kitchen. If they're renting the kitchen from the church and church is collecting a fee, we're collecting a fee on the caterer, but not on the church because they're still considered nonprofit.
Right,
correct.
the caterer would be licensed under their own catering
Under their own
business.
catering.
They're
Using
utilizing
the
the kitchen
church.
that's licensed.
Yep.
As whichever church.
Okay, just want to make sure, because I know I've seen 3 or 4 different caterers using the same church in other areas that I worked, and I just want to make sure, because I'm going to end up bringing this information to my job and
So the
using it.
caterer would pay for their catering license
License.
like they normally would.
Okay.
But the church itself, for their functions and pancake breakfasts and so
Would
forth,
still be fine.
would be exempt, provided they have the documentation
Okay,
provided to our department.
excellent.
The other item I'd like to bring to the attention, we set a $200 fee for recreational camps. We are investigating, the state set that fee at $50, correct, Al?
I think so.
Not to exceed $50, unless we adopted a certain code of, there's a Mass General law that we have to adopt that would allow us to change that.
Okay.
We have to do a little bit further investigating to find out if the Town of Auburn the Town of Auburn adopted it for the police. We gotta find out if that adoption extends, if it was adopted for the town or specifically for the police. So that's the second item that we may have to adjust.
Okay.
And we just gotta, like I said, we just got the interpretations from Hennigan today.
Okay.
I do want to bring attention to the late fee for permit licenses. I changed that, and I want to make sure that the board is comfortable with it. We kept the initial late fee the same as it is right now. But because we've had so many years where we've been chasing licenses, 3 months, 4 months, I'm proposing that after 30 days, a late fee becomes double. And obviously, they would be alerted during that 30 days because we'll be attempting to,
Contact.
yes,
The late fee is doubled or the permit fee is doubled?
double permit fee is gonna be the,
So if they have a permit for $200, if they're over 30 days late, then it's now $400.
In 30 days.
After 30 days, so once that 31st day hits, they owe double.
This might be also a good time just to get clarification from the board, because I know we're coming into a season where we start renewing at the end of the year. And I know Paula spends a lot of time trying to call and email, and a lot of effort goes into trying to get people to be in compliance. If somebody has not renewed their permit by the end of the year, December 31st, and I think we had maybe a couple of these last time, is it the board's opinion that they are not allowed to operate?
If you don't have a permit, you shouldn't be open.
Okay.
And I think we don't have that in here. I don't know if we need to have it in there that, I mean, right now, we're doing a double fee. If they're 30 days later, we're gonna shut them too. That's the question.
I don't think we can do it too.
No, I don't think we can do
If we,
it too.
if we shut them down, then they're not late.
They're not late, exactly.
So either we charge the late fees or we shut them down.
Now, can we, after 30 days, since they owe double, can they be shut down?
I think if
At
they
any
haven't-
point, they can be shut down if they're out of compliance,
Yes.
but once you shut them down, I believe,
But I'm saying, it's like, if it hit 40 days and they still haven't paid, can we shut them down at that point? Because now they
I
have
would say that we would bring them in for a hearing at that
for
point.
hearing, and would they still be charged the double because they've already been, we've given them that time?
I would say yes.
So, yeah, so within the 30 days, I wouldn't say, I would let them know that they are required to have a permit, and right now they are working without a permit, so they need to get that permit in with the late fee. And if they go
So-
over 30 days, then-
Right, I mean, because, you know, the permit goes to the end of the calendar year. So they need to have it renewed. We make every effort to remind people and so forth.
yeah, it's, I mean, I know being in that position myself, you know, it's kind of one of those things, you get it in, you go, okay, I'm gonna pay that, you put it to the side, it gets buried in paperwork, and then you get a call, hey, you're 2 weeks late for your permit. So I understand where that comes out, but people have to make it a priority. If you want to do business in town, you have to pay your permits. So I have, my personal opinion is, you know, after that 30 days, we make one more, and if you have to hand deliver a notice, and then, I don't know. We don't have full staffing to do that, too. So we have to look at that effect, if we're just gonna make a call and say, hey, you're over 30 days late, and then we show up 10 days later and say, I'm sorry, cease and desist. You know, you're working without a permit.
We've always gotten the letters out when they're late, so we
Yeah.
should still be able to keep that up.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't imagine that we'd have that many within 30 days, you know?
Yeah.
We'd be on the phone and
Yeah.
email within a couple days
Oh,
after the
there was a
first.
time.
Oh, I mean, I came on the board and we had people in September and October hadn't renewed, and then they were saying, well, if I renew now, can that just cover me for next year? They were trying to, and I said, no, you have to pay for both years, so.
Last interpretation from Hennigan that the board asked me to get, under the new charter, does the Board of Health still adopt their own? It was blatantly obvious that we adopt our own regulations. We don't have to go to town meeting for regulations under Chapter 31.
Okay.
But can we adopt our own fees, even if we adopt them under regulation?
Yep.
The charter isn't what affects it. There is a new set of bylaws coming through Auburn.
Okay.
If those bylaws get adopted as they're written now, the authority to adopt fees from the Board of Health won't be moved to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Health will become advisory on that. And they'll advise the Board of Selectmen that these are the fees that should be charged.
Okay.
I do not see this, the regs are in review stage right now. At best, we're gonna get a special town meeting at the end of January, maybe middle of February. So I would not advise the board to put this off.
No.
Adopt them now as regulation, and come town meeting, when they adopt the new bylaws, the Board of Selectmen will then become they'll become referral to the Board of Selectmen, and
Yeah.
it'll be up to them to adopt. But I would still advise that we go forward
Okay.
now or at a meeting in the near future,
All right.
and adopt them as regulation for now.
All right. Anything else on public hearing?
Yeah, but the rest is just preparing setting rules and stuff, so if it's comfortable with you, Ray, we can go back to the.
Yeah, we can do that right before the meeting, because meeting's not till, the first one until 7. But at this point, we can open the meeting for our furry little friends, the beaver permits. We have 2 separate permits. Are you prepared to speak on the behalf, Andy?
I am, I'm
If
not.
you are, I'm going to open the meeting. I just want to know before I open. Okay, at this point, it is now, looks like 6:19. I'd like to open the meeting, open the hearing for the Town of Auburn DPW Sewer Division. They are looking to gain 2 beaver permits from the Board of Health to, looks like, knock down dams. Okay, so at this point, let's see, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say the date. Today is the 21st of October. Okay,
6:20.
and now it's 6:20, well, it was 6:19 when I started. Okay, so at this point, Andy, unless you want me to read the requests, we can go right to you. It's your,
I can probably sum it up pretty quick.
okay.
We got 2 requests from the DPW. Does the board want me to take them individually, or? Basically the same story on both of them, just 2 different locations.
I'm okay with just giving us the locations. It's up to the board members how they feel about it, if they want both of them read separately or together. How do you feel about it, Marion? The beaver permits, do them together or do them separate?
Probably one at a time, I do it separate.
Okay. Steve, how do you feel about that?
As long as the mitigation plan is the same, I can look at them together.
Okay.
Marion, did you say you wanted them individually?
Marrington individually, Steve said together.
They're presented individually. I would think that it would take a motion of the board to put them together, so.
Okay, take them individually then.
Okay, we take them individually. Which one do you want to start with?
Let's go with the Holstrom Court Pump Station.
Okay,
Holstrom Court is located off of Southbridge Street Court. There is a river that flows between the pump station and Fuller's Automotive on Auburn Street, just to get you familiar with the area. Right? The river has been constantly rising. I went down there the day that he put this request in, and the water right now is about 3 feet away from the parking lot of the sewer pump station. I went for a walk through the woods because, you know, it's nice and summery out there, and sank up to my knees in mud and slime. I never found the beaver dam,
okay.
but it's obvious there's something blocking that river, whether it be a beaver dam or
debris.
natural debris.
Okay.
This dam would have to be breached in accordance with conservation requirements, conditions. So we would issue a permit to breach the dam, and conservation would
Okay,
either okay it or put their own conditions on it.
okay.
From what I saw, I can irrevocably state that should the river keep rising, that pump station will be flooded.
Okay.
And I've seen, my understanding of that pump station is it's an open pump station, which means it flows into a pit. The sewer line flows into a pit there, and it's just an open pit. So if water gets into that pump station,
gonna blow it
it's
out.
gonna get into the sewer system and blow out the sewer system. So I believe that there is a threat, an imminent threat to the infrastructure of the sewer department.
Okay. Any other evidence to be stated?
Do not.
Okay, at this point, I'll take a motion to close the evidentiary part of the hearing.
A motion?
Do I have a second?
Second?
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3-0 to close the evidentiary part of the hearing. At this point, we are open for discussion. Any board members have any comments?
How far is this from the water department wellheads?
Water Department wellheads, I believe, are at the end of Southbridge Street Court, right near the field. There's a sports field down there.
Okay.
And I believe the Water Department has some, I'm not positive, but there's an official building down there, and I think it's
Right.
Water Department building. The river runs essentially right behind all the houses and goes out into a huge swampland-like area right behind that wellhead area. So is the wellhead threatened? I don't know how high the wells are above the ground. I haven't seen the wellheads. So I don't know how high they stand above the ground. If they stand high enough above the ground, all of the sports field will flood before the wells get up.
And there's nothing approaching the fields yet?
I walked the backside of the fields, probably 50 yards behind the field, and it wasn't even wet, 30 yards anyhow. And then it started as like a swampy area. And as I said, I'm not sure where the dam is. I just know that there's something blocking that river and causing the water to rise.
Okay.
I think the Board of Health should buy me a canoe.
Sure. You can use it all up until Friday. All right, any other comments by board members? Do we have anybody looking to make a motion?
No, look at this. Don't, I can't quite hear it, so would you please
Sure.
address it, Jim?
Sure. Marion just said that if you would like to make a motion, she would be okay if you made a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the emergency 10-day beaver muskrat permit.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to accept the application for the beaver muskrat permit, the 10-day permit. Do we have a second?
Second?
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3-0 to approve the
Holstrom.
Sewer Department for Holstrom Court to remove the beaver dam or whatever is blocking the water so it does not adversely affect the pump station.
Okay, I will get this to Conservation and have them review it and
Okay.
approve it, and we will issue the 10-day based on their approval, so 10 days after they approve it.
Okay. So at this point, I need a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
I need a second.
Aye?
Okay, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0 to close the hearing. So that one's done. All right, now I'd like to open the hearing. It is once again October 21st, and now it is 6:26 PM. And now we have a motion, we have a request for a permit for 38 Rydberg Terrace. It seems a dam has been built across the brook, which has diverted the path of the brook and has caused the brook to expand into sewer easement on the post property. So at this point, Andy, if you could give us any more information than what they've asked for.
Just to get you familiar with the locale,
Yeah,
The
go to
Swiss
Greenwood
Chalet.
Street.
the Swiss Chalet on Route 20.
Yep.
There is
Oh,
a,
yeah.
the Army Corps of Engineers diversion tunnel goes right by there, and there's a little Y that comes in and merges with that diversion tunnel on the downstream side of the tunnel. That stream initiates on the other side of South Hold Road and runs through the nastiest wooded briar patch, gnarly piece of land you've ever seen, and comes out in that diversion tunnel. That gnarly land is behind 38 Rydberg. Again, I could not find what's causing the dam, but the water is definitely rising. I got to the top side of it and the water is high. I got to the bottom side and the water is ridiculously low, but there's a huge expanse in there that I couldn't get to, and there's some sort of blockage in that expanse. There is a cross-country line that runs from Packagug behind the Packagug Church, very close to the Pappas property, and across the property of Mr. Post. That sewer easement was one that we actually broke, I think, 3 years ago. We had a major break there. This water, if it continues to build up, will wash over that sewer easement. I don't know what damage that will do to an underground sewer line, but I know that where it pops up, that's an open line.
Okay.
So I believe it's a pipeline to the manholes and stuff. We've given one of these before out behind Barbara Ave.
Yep.
When that easement was threatened. So there's definitely a blockage there. Again, I can't dictate to you that it's a beaver blockage, but if it is, it would require a motion by this board to approve if they felt that there was a threat to infrastructure, public health infrastructure.
Any more evidence to be given?
Do not.
I will take a motion to close the evidentiary part of the hearing.
I make that motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3-0 to close the evidentiary part of the hearing. We are now in the discussion phase of the hearing. At this point, any questions or concerns from the members?
Any idea how they propose to mitigate the situation?
I do not. If you would like, I can get in touch with Mr. Mitchell, and
I'm kind of curious as if,
I imagine they will bring a machine in, a backhoe, probably a treaded, tracked backhoe. I don't know how
Make a
they're gonna
path.
locate it without taking a canoe down the thing. Like I said, I couldn't get to the section that it was in. So I don't know how much damage they're gonna do locating the actual dam. I think that's an issue for Concom
conservation.
to give them more explicit, make sure you find it before you go searching for it.
Exactly. And don't tear up the wetlands and then say, whoops, we couldn't find the dam.
Yeah, I would, somebody likes you.
I guess.
So-
I'll call it back.
Okay, any more discussion from the members?
No.
No. Marion, anything to add?
No?
No? Okay, at this point, I will take a motion on the request.
Make a motion to accept the application for 10-day emergency beaver and muskrat permit for the 38 Rybrook Terrace property.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the table with a second. How does everyone vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3-0 vote to approve.
Again, if
The
it please,
request.
again, if it please the board, I will make it 10 days from Concom signature.
Concom, yes. That's fine. Okay, at this time, I need a motion to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. How does everyone vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3-0 to close the hearing. And the hearing is closed.
If you'll excuse me for a minute.
Sure. All right, next issue, we're going to go back to the agenda items. And we have flu 2013-14.
Do you want to set rules for the hearing?
All right, you think that's going to take, if you want to set rules, we can do that first, if you want to move that up?
No, that's right
Or
there.
move it down, oh, that's right, prepare for public hearing. Well, I didn't know if we were moving that till later on, when you said you wanted to move it, so if you want to do it now, that's fine.
Yeah, we can do it now. I want to make sure that the board is comfortable with the procedure,
Okay.
that the board puts in whatever. Things of concern, depending on the population that comes, I don't know what we'll get for an outcome. Things of concern would be tracking people who talk. I would recommend that we have a sign-in sheet for anybody who intends to speak. And then, based on the number of people who show up, I don't think it would be a bad idea to decide how long each person can talk. If 2 people show up, I don't see a big issue.
Yeah.
But if 30 people show up, you might want to limit it to, 2 to 3 minutes.
per person.
So I think the board should, one, agree that we have a sign-in or some way of tracking speakers.
Yes.
And 2, I think that a discussion should ensue on just how long people should be able to speak. I would think that we would want to set the hearing to be 45 minutes or so.
Yep.
So,
No, that's fine. Yeah, I thought we always had a sign-in sheet for hearings, so I would make sure we have a sign-in sheet when people come in, if we can just point them in that direction to have them sign in. Secondly, yes, definitely set time frame for people to speak. We're just gonna ask people to give their opinion and what their request is and what their hardship is why they're making the request.
Right.
I just don't see, it's too much. Well, why is it too much? I mean, we're going over both. We have two back-to-back, so, I mean, we're gonna be opening and closing one and then going into the other. Correct? They're not the same.
No, it
Hearing.
had to be
Have to be
two separate
separated.
hearings. I set them 5 minutes apart.
Yep.
Because it doesn't matter if you start a hearing late, but you can't start one early. So I didn't want the board sitting here for an hour.
Waiting for the
If
other
the
one.
first hearing only took 6 minutes.
Yeah, you
So
know,
I set them 5 minutes apart with the assumption it will probably delay the fee
on the
schedule.
paperwork we got, we didn't get a time
So
frame
it'd
on
be
that one.
5 minutes in,
7 and 7:05.
in between the people that are coming in,
Okay, we did,
that occurs
On my
that way.
proposed one, it doesn't have any,
okay, I do have the legal,
yeah, it's in the paper. I saw that, but it's not in our paperwork, so.
Right.
according to 131, we had to advertise it twice in the paper. We've done that. So we are in full compliance with the laws. We're ready to move forward with the hearing.
Yep.
Is there anything else we have to worry about for essentially ground rules? I mean, I don't want to
Well-
miss something and try to make things up in the middle.
I think we're not here to, we can discuss when it's time to discuss. Evidentiary part will be the reading, really just letting people know that we have a new food code, that, see if everybody's had a chance to read it. We're not gonna read the entire food code. That's the evidentiary part of the hearing. Once we close the evidentiary part of the hearing, I can open it up for discussion. Because what they have to say is discussion, it's not evidence, correct?
They have to give opinion, give thoughts.
That's discussion, that's not,
Right,
that's testimony.
that's
So
testimony.
we have to close the hearing before we allow them to get up and speak. We have to close the evidentiary part. I believe that's,
Would they, no.
well, that's
They-
discussion though.
There,
Is that evidence or is that opinion? I thought that went under discussion.
They speak to,
I think we would probably be best to slip out of strict conformance with,
Okay.
because we're going to have people stand up, and this board might have questions for them.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, we don't want 13,000 people to stand up and then make them stand up again to answer the questions. This board might have questions
Okay.
as they're speaking.
All right.
So I would recommend that we open the hearing, present the new code, and ask for comments on the code.
Okay.
People stand up, they can basically combine evidentiary and.
And discussion.
And
Okay.
discussion.
As long as everybody's okay with that, I just want to make sure we're still.
I would say it would be more like a not cross-contamination, a cross-examination.
Yep.
Rather than discussion. Discussion would be between the board members.
Okay, that's fine.
So a back and forth with whoever is speaking.
All right.
And then discussion amongst the board members on thoughts they've.
That's fine. I just want to make sure we're in compliance. Okay, so that's fine. So we're going to allow during the evidentiary part, the comments and concerns. And then after we've heard from everybody, we can close the hearing at that point, and then we can go into discussion. In the discussion, at that point, if we think we got a lot of information we want to discuss, but we don't have time for that, we can table the vote and table the discussion until our next meeting. I think if we start discussing, we may have people chiming in at that point, so I think it may be better if, once it's discussion, the discussion is, since we're allowing them to speak during the evidentiary part, the discussion is more of us among ourselves. And we can make some comments, but I don't want to make it, I don't think if we have a lot of people, we should make a decision in front of everybody. They're going to think, oh, well, they didn't even take what I had to say into context. I'm thinking if we have 5 or 6 people speak, we got to write down the information and discuss it.
And in all honesty, even if one person
Oh,
speaks
yeah.
about an issue, I think it's our due diligence to actually consider what they
Exactly.
propose and look at how it's going to affect,
Exactly. I don't think we've run a hearing where we voted the same night.
right?
I think our tobacco one, we met a week later or 2 weeks later, and we voted in the tobacco, and I think we actually might have made a change on that one. So there is definitely, we're going to let people talk, know that we're listening, and write down notes, and then when we get together and meet to make the discussion, we can, now, since we'd be doing that, we wouldn't be closing the hearing, we'd be
Move to take it under advisement.
taking under advisement.
We would be
but we don't-
continuing.
Continuing the
We
hearing.
have to state when we're continuing it to.
So we'll have to get a date.
Right, so our next meeting is potentially November 11th.
Which is a
No, it's a
holiday.
holiday.
I meant November 25th. How close to Thanksgiving is that?
That's the week of.
Thanksgiving week.
That's the Monday of Thanksgiving.
November 18th is the next one. That's an off week for us.
Does that work for everybody, the 18th?
That's the third week.
Today is also the third week. If it,
I had it listed as the 18th,
I thought we had already discussed it the last meeting. I think we said the 18th.
probably, yeah.
related to this, as we move forward, the food code is going to be adopted at some point in the near future. The board may want to consider overall switching to a once-a-month meeting and maybe go for the third third Monday instead of the first, second, or fourth. That would allow it to be an off Monday from the selectmen's meeting in case there's a double book on something.
Okay.
But that's for future discussion.
All right, so if we do continue the hearing, it'll be till November 18th. Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay. Just to let everybody know, I would, for anything like this, I want a full board. So if people can't make it on the 18th, we need to know, because I want a full board. I don't want 2 people voting. I'd like all board members to vote. Darlene, yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to offer, Ray, for the actual, when we do open the hearing, if, obviously, you're not gonna read all of the new
Amendments,
proposed
yeah.
changes, but if you give an overview of how you got to this point, because a lot of, when I'm going out to do inspections, I'm letting people know, look, there are some things that the board is discussing, and these are kind of the reasons why, why a lot of these things have come up. I know Andy and yourself have been working on this for years, and the board's concerns about it. Further, I just wanted to let you know, because we did get some written comments, and we wanted to be able to let you know that we did have those.
Gave them to Ray.
Oh, great.
I have
Thank you,
them,
Paula.
so I will read them into the record.
I would start when we're asking for public comment, I would start the public comment with the written comments.
Okay.
I would end the public comment with request anybody else who has a comment, even if they haven't signed the sheet, let them make comment.
Yep.
Because once you close that part and it becomes discussion, I would make it clear that this is, you've had your chance to speak.
yep.
This is board's discussion and consideration.
Right, there's one comment there that actually came in, I think, today.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Comments, the deadline officially was
Was
Friday.
Friday.
I'm not,
Of course it was Bob.
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's before the hearing, so
Yep.
I think it's worth bringing.
so if we're comfortable with that, we can move on with the agenda. If there's any other concerns regarding the hearing, we should discuss them.
Just one quick question.
Sure.
So Darlene, when people are asking how we came to this, it was multiple issues. I mean, are we going into all that, all right, I may need some help on that. It's been a while. I may just make some comments that, as in the past, we've noticed a lot of issues that, I don't want to talk to the money issue, the fee schedule. Fee schedule that's based on numbers, that's based on time
I
spent.
can speak to this fee
Okay.
schedule if you want.
The food code is, the town of Auburn hasn't adopted a food code in how many years?
86? I haven't adopted one since I've
Yeah,
been here.
I think we're close to 20, 25 years since we've adopted a food code.
It was just before just after
Well-
I came here,
So
26 years.
that was our own code, but we adopted 99.
That's right.
So 99 was 14 years ago.
But 99, the Federal Food Code of 1999 is what we're operating under right now.
Yes, we're still operating under
The
that.
state mandated that we adopt that, so we adopted that, but that still did not take into considerations issues we felt specific to Auburn. So,
Yep, and I think one of my,
last local laws are still, regardless of the fact that we adopted in 99, they're still 25 years old.
you're still 25 years old. And there's a lot of issues that are not being, some stuff, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the code that we touched on that hadn't been touched in years. And it's for safety more than anything else. It's for the safety of the people eating in town. I mean, people question why we expect someone to be Serve Safe certified, Choke Safe certified, and Allergen certified on any given shift. We can explain to them why that's not an issue, so, I'm figuring some of those questions are gonna come out like that, and pest control, we've seen issues where people just aren't getting pest control, and that's another safety issue.
I mean, we've looked at the Federal Code of Regulations, and they talk a whole lot about application of pest control, but they don't say you actually have to control pests.
Exactly.
So we want to control pests.
No, exactly. Control it. It only takes one time for them to get in. And
I think the science.
when I had my restaurant, once a month they were in spraying, and it wasn't a hardship. I mean, that was 20 years ago, but still, the fees couldn't have been that exorbitant now that they're gonna, I know if you call them in for a one-time deal, it's like 125 to 250, but if you're on a monthly contract, it's nowhere near that. I'd guess $35 to $50, because they come in, they check their traps, and they do a light spray, and then they're out 15 minutes and they're gone. I mean, mine was $12. That was 20 years ago. So if it tripled, I'd be very impressed if it tripled, because they don't do a lot.
Well, I think part of what, the reason that you've come up with a lot of these things, I mean, I find it helpful when I'm doing inspections to be able to refer to look the fact, yes, okay, I explain that this may not be in the regulation now, but it's something that's important to the board, and it may be instituted, in the near
Yep.
future, so it's a good practice to get into. But I mean, I think a lot of the things that you have in here, maybe aren't crystal clear in the food code, or the Massachusetts amendment.
Yeah, so if they have those, yeah.
Right, so by having something that's a clarification for our town, it's because things have come up that we've had to deal with as a health department, and these things, we're trying to make it easier. I think people want to follow the rules, as long as they know what the rules are and they're clear.
I would make argument that 25 years, science, customs, technology,
Yep.
our laws are not keeping up with the science.
And it's also the influx, I mean, I run into in different towns, Auburn isn't that way, but it could happen. Influx of different cultures, and they have different ways of doing things, and we have to make sure everybody's on the same page, and that's why we have to have these.
So I think that the purpose behind the regulations is more than justifiable.
Any other comments, concerns on the, any questions? Steve, Marion, anything? No. All right. Okay, we got some time. Do you want to, do some flu clinic stuff so we can move this stuff out of the way?
Let's dance.
Yeah.
Senior flu clinic, I'm going to defer to Dal. Ms. Dal had a flu clinic on Friday. I was out last week. She conducted a flu
That's-
clinic at the senior center.
That's why the trailer on Friday night wasn't at the, I called Andy and I'm like, Andy, I said, I went to the fire department, our trailer's not there.
No, the trailer has not been stolen. So yes, we had our first flu clinic of the season. We always vaccinate our senior population first. So this was our first clinic that we've conducted on Friday. We had a great turnout, and I believe, I will have to double check with the nurse for specific numbers, but we're in the range of a little over 100. So we had, like I said, a lot of people, a lot of interest. So we were thrilled to be able to get that done. We had, it was done on a Friday, and it was right around lunchtime. So we were able to kind of pull the participants that usually attend lunch, and from my understanding, I think Friday might be a good attendance day. So we will be looking to our next clinic for the general public. And Andy and I have had several discussions. As you are aware, we do have the date confirmed. The next general public clinic is going to be November 2nd, which is a Saturday. It's going to be held at the senior center, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. So we encourage all to come and get vaccinated. We're going to be vaccinating ages 10 and up. So that is per our doctor's orders. So ages 10 and up. If parents are concerned about any children under age 10, we would refer them to their pediatrician.
We received, this board, and I know, Steve, you had specific concerns, authorized the purchase to bring the number of vaccines up to 400 vaccines. I do not know how we did this, but we got a batch of vaccines in, it was out of temperature, we sent it back. We ordered some vaccines, and somewhere, something got crossed, we have 580 vaccines. So somewhere, I think Cheryl ordered some when I ordered some, and sending that one batch back for replacement, something got screwed up.
Duplicated.
Total of 580 vaccines. Obvious options, we could send some back and say, we don't want these, but Darlene and I were talking today. This would be a great chance to really see what kind of numbers we can push through an EDS site, because we have the extra vaccine. I believe we can actually use it all.
Okay.
With the theory that about 80% of it will be reimbursed through the insurance, we should be able to get all the money back that we spent on it.
Okay.
We want to, or we have been at least discussing and want to present to you, using code red 2 days before the flu clinic to announce the flu clinic. What that is going to do, if you remember our electronics take-back event, that is going to blow this clinic out of the water. We are going to have a half an army and a quarter of the population of the nation show up at this thing.
Good.
It's a chance to test an alternative site other than our regular EDS site is the high school. It's a chance for us to test, should the high school be out of commission, can we do a successful large clinic at the alternate site, which is the senior center? And I think it's a real good chance to, over 3 hours, to see what kind of numbers we can push through and get a true prediction of how long it would take to vaccinate the whole town of Auburn.
Okay.
The downside of this, it's a very restrictive site, and if we use code red, we could have hordes of people.
At that point, we may have to put a police officer on a detail.
We've talked to Andy, he will make an officer available to us. We have money in the flu account. We do have a revolving fund to fund our flu accounts. We can pay we have to pay a minimum of 3 hours. I would imagine this officer will be there probably for 4 to 5 hours.
Well, if it's 9 to 12, they might get there.
Hour before, hour ahead.
After. Okay.
We may ask either the Woods or the Senior Center to have a van on standby in case we have to do off-site parking. We're checking with the
The church? Packagug Church, or?
Packagug Church, but more specifically Pappas Field, the
Oh,
Parks
yeah, that's right,
Department.
that's right there, yeah.
And we'll try parking people down there as an overflow lot if needed.
Okay.
We just have to check the sports schedule.
Yep.
And additional to that, we have a promise from Orange. He's got a ton of extra vaccine that we can have access to if we think we're going to blow out that 500,000.
Where is he?
Huh?
Town of Orange?
Town of Orange.
Who's gonna race up and get him?
Sarah. We have somebody,
Sarah will be here. She's here at every clinic.
Sarah will be here. Sarah's a consultant for the BT clinic,
Okay.
and we will pay her mileage out of
She's a
the,
go-getter.
yeah, we'll pay her mileage out of the
The flu.
out of the flu account.
50 minutes up, 50 minutes back.
Well, he's done with his clinic, so we could
Sure.
secure the vaccine beforehand and just return it if we don't use it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, because you're not gonna know until probably 1 or 2 hours into the clinic, oh no, and then to have to drive up to Orange and back unless you've got a chopper.
I've got 2. I have a police escort. Yeah, we could probably get it beforehand and have it here.
Make more sense.
Darlene has been playing with the idea, and we proposed it last year, of if we have extra vaccine at the end of this thing, to do a Black Friday clinic at the mall. So we'll be able to blow it out then, and we can take that down whenever
Have
we
we taken
want.
care of the first responders in town yet?
We have made both clinics open to them.
Okay.
So they can go to either clinic. Any vaccine we have left after that, we'll look at the number we have left, but we can hold the school clinic
That's
for the
what I say, yeah, the
teachers.
teachers clinic was
And
another
we
one.
can invite the first responders to that.
Okay.
I think,
Notification's been put in the paychecks for all town employees.
Yep.
Good.
When is
Okay.
the teacher's clinic?
we
We
don't
haven't
have one
we-
unless we have vaccine.
Yeah, we wait until after and see if everything, what we have left. We have 100 left, we do a teacher's clinic. If we have 20 left, we don't do a teacher's clinic. They can come up here and get their vaccine in the office. Andy likes, actually, we'll have Darlene hitting people with the vaccine.
We need another H1N1. Eric enjoyed.
Yeah, Eric was here. He was
Eric
doing right out of
enjoyed
this room.
giving
He liked coming up here, and that was good. Hey, he got a fridge from us.
I am, obviously, my last day is Friday, the 25th. But I have told Dal that I will assist
Volunteer.
her. I will assist her at this clinic.
Good.
I told her that I wouldn't cause all hell to break loose and dump it all on her again, since I have a habit of doing that.
Yeah. I can think of a couple things. Household
Electronics
hazardous waste day. Oh, no, wait, that was me.
Every time I dump it on her, it gets ugly.
All right, any other comments or concerns on the flu clinics?
Do not.
All right,
The board has thoughts on it.
we have 7 minutes. We have the solid waste commitment.
We have a commitment bill for, this was a bill she found for, there's 49 bills. These were people who we found out had big totals, but would be getting charged for small. They had service, but we weren't charging them. These were just stray bills. Total of the bill is $2,800, I believe.
Okay.
The board is prepared to issue, not the board, the assessors are prepared to issue the bills. They just need authorization from this board, because we are the ones that tell them they can bill or they can't bill.
Okay. Questions or concerns from the board? Crickets. Okay, so all it's saying is that there was a mistake in the billing, and they need us to sign off to say that they can fix.
I'll,
Oh, partial billing, so they need to.
yeah, it's a partial billing, it's not, I wouldn't say it was a mistake, it was things we found after the fact.
Yep.
We didn't know they had a large total. So we were billing them for a small. So I wouldn't say it was a mistake in the bill, it was a adjustment.
Adjustments made to the bill. Okay, we do need a vote on this, I believe.
Make a motion to issue the bills for
Sign the
the
commitment.
partial billing
And sign the commitment.
and send the commitment.
Do we have a second?
Second?
How does everyone vote?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye, 3-0 to sign the commitment and pass it back down to Board of Assessors. Who needs to sign?
All of you,
All of us? Okay.
you are the board. Dun, dun, dun.
All right, we still got 6 minutes before the hearings open. Do we have anything on emergency planning?
We do. The emergency planning, the BT Region 2 came out in 2004, I believe. Since then, boards of health have had a funding source from CDC through the state. We've been averaging $500,000 to $600,000 to be spent throughout central Mass. There's 74 towns that have shared that. The purpose being to plan for specifically public health emergency preparedness, our EDS sites, any kind of chemical concerns, regionalization of resources, not necessarily of health, but of equipment and stuff. We got a lot of equipment out of it. The state and CDC are looking to encourage further cooperation between public health and medical health, the hospitals.
Yep.
So boards of health or the BT2 Regional Coalition will no longer be getting that money directly. It's going to be combined with medical monies.
Okay.
And it will become one pot of money to be voted on by representatives of both bases. BT2 will continue to exist. We will meet regularly to discuss with our representative what we want to put forth as our priorities. But I think it's important for the board to know that the years of equipment are probably coming to an end. I know I sit on the, it's called the E Committee, it's the Education, Acquisitions, and Training. So all of the equipment, essentially all the toys we've been getting have been coming through that committee. I am going to start leaning away from the equipment and more towards the training. We are hoping to do educational opportunities. We're hoping to do tabletop exercise, functional exercises, to prove that what we've done in the last 10 years has actually produced something that we can functionally work. And if it doesn't prove that, then it'll give us an opportunity to figure out what we need to make that happen. Understanding those needs are going to be compared to what the hospitals think they need. So it will always be a, this is what we need, this is what you need, let's compromise somewhere
Okay.
and see if we can come up with it. I just wanted the board to know that it's not going to be public health money anymore. It's taking a new direction now, I think a healthy direction. But I think education opportunities is gonna stay there. So when we have an opportunity that has a real good preparedness track, I think that's still gonna be offered. A lot of the tracks that a lot of the seminars that we've gone to are probably gonna be nixed unless they are specifically geared towards emergency preparedness.
Yep.
I can't imagine the MHOA won't be funded anymore. I can't imagine that the NACHO conferences won't be funded anymore. NACHO is very heavily into
yeah.
preparedness. And additionally, I will be lobbying for monies to be put towards recruitment of volunteers. The best plans you can have in place are gonna fall on their ear if you don't have people to come through. So I'm gonna, the MRCs have recently been subdivided. There's still a single Worcester County MMRC, the Greater Worcester MMRC, but we are now part of the Southwest region. Southbridge, Sturbridge, Wales, Charlton, Oxford, there's 8 of us in the Southwest. And I'm going to be concentrating, again, it'll be out of Southbridge, but I know Darlene is going to be taking on this battle here in Auburn to try to up recruitment of volunteers. So unless this board thinks we should be concentrating on something else, my attitude is training, exercising, and ensuring a robust volunteer base. If the board wants me to look to another direction, I can do that.
I think I'm fine with I mean, we got what we needed. There's a few things we could have gotten that we didn't get, but I think right now we have to go with the training and education part. Because all the toys that you have are worthless unless you're trained to do everything else. So, you know, if you got 12 trucks but can't drive, there's no use.
Training and recruitment.
Exact, training and recruitment and bringing the right people in. So that's not I have no problem with that. I mean,
No, I
no,
don't.
oh, no, I know, you're a big proponent of the MRC,
Oh, yeah.
so I know that.
If the board can think of any additional equipment we need, I can investigate Dow will investigate other venues, other resources. There's grant monies out there for specific needs and stuff like that. So if there are specific things you can think of, Ray.
And those will
just let
end
me
up
know.
coming as things go.
We also have a couple of small pots of money that we can go into sooner rather than later.
Do you have proposals already
Or,
for the initiation of all of this coming together?
no, we're gonna complete this year, which will bring us out to July. So our money is not affected this year. The MHOA is gonna get paid out of that. I believe there's a NACHO conference that's probably gonna be approved out of that. We have approved already out of this year's money, a lot of redirecting to the MRCs, getting these subdivisions up and running. So, right now, I think the money is pretty much all accounted for, but it will be merged next fiscal year with the hospitals. I think this is gonna bode well for Auburn. Worcester has a good relationship with their hospitals because they're Worcester's hospitals. Gardner has a great relationship with their hospital because it's Gardner's hospital. Auburn doesn't have a hospital. And what we'll wanna do, I think what we wanna do from the hospital side of it is incorporate clinics more, because we have 2 very strong clinics. We have Reliant and we have Reliant Outpatient. So we have good, strong clinics that we can
About the
partner
new
up with.
clinic in town as well.
Huh?
The new clinic in town.
That would be
Yeah,
Reliant's
Reliant owns
competition.
both.
Oh, okay.
One's Reliant Health, the other is
Ready.
ReadyMed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ReadyMed,
that's
but
a
they both hold
Reliant.
Reliant,
Oh, okay.
Reliant Healthcare.
good.
So I'm hoping that this merge will allow us to bring Reliant into the fold and make them part of our health planning.
I was speaking to somebody there, they've gotten such a good response from the town of Auburn. Instead of being 2 to 9, they may actually start their hours at 10 a.m. They
Cool.
said they've gotten a lot of response, and it's been good, and people keep telling them how great it is to not have to leave town, and, especially at night, they don't have to go sit in Worcester and wait in the emergency room. They come in here, you punch in with a computer, and then they call you up, and I've been there once, and it worked out really, really well.
So what are you saying, a lot of people in Auburn get hurt?
Well, it's the kids at the baseball fields and the kids at soccer, instead of having to, they hurt their arm, they can go there, and it's amazing. And the woman said when I was there that they're very excited about partnering with Auburn. They're actually hiring 2 more doctors, and they may extend the hours.
I think it's the greatest thing to hit Auburn as far as medical help.
All right.
They are entertaining.
At this point, it is now 7 o'clock, and we have a public hearing for the proposed amendments to the Federal Food Code and 105 CMR 590. So at this time, I'd like to open the hearing. And I do know we have some people here who are going to be wishing to speak. and everybody signed in. So the first part of the hearing is an evidentiary part of the hearing. So at this point, just want a little background on our code of regs. The town of Auburn has not adopted a code of regs since the late 80s, so we're looking at 20 to 25 years since the regs have been changed. And we know this is going to affect a lot of people, and that's why we posted it twice in the newspaper. It's been on the website, and we have a lot of different things going on. Different areas are going to affect different people. We've had some of our amendments. Back in '99, the state adopted the 1999 Federal Food Code, which we were told we had to adopt, but our regs actually were a little bit stronger than those as it were, and now we have added some more. In 25 years, there's been a lot of changes in the way product is grown, the way it's shipped in, the countries we're getting food from. So the food is actually it's tougher to really qualify and quantify where the food's coming from and how it's being treated before it gets here. So we have adopted our regs to help keep our people safe and keep our the people who dine in town, keep them safe, keep the people who work in the area safe, and it's a safety issue as one. And some of the codes were so far out of date that they didn't even adhere to the new ServSafe, which came in the late 90s, the Allergen, which came in 2010, and the ChokeSave, which came out, I believe, I think it was like 2004, 2005. Do you know, Darlene? It was sometime in that point with the ChokeSavers.
I'm not sure of the.
Yeah, I know that one was on the later end too. It wasn't. So a lot of that stuff is not in the federal food code. It's in the 2009, not the 1999, which is the one the state of Massachusetts currently uses. So unless Andy or Darlene has anything to add to, or the board members have anything to add to the reasoning behind our food protection laws, if you want to add anything.
Do not accept as previously stated. We need to keep up with technology and science. As technology improves and as we learn new things through testing and unfortunately through disease outbreaks, regulations are not keeping up with what we learn through those events. So this is an opportunity for us to add additional protections to the public food handling process and hopefully bring us up to today, but unfortunately not to tomorrow.
Okay. Darlene, anything to add?
Ray, I just wanted to give you the information you requested. 2000, 590 was adopted, 105, 590.
okay.
So we do have the anti-choking.
That one was in there, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
The requirement is in the 590 code.
okay. Thank you. All right. I'm going to be opening this up for comment. We actually had 3 letters come into the office, so I am going to read those first. Let's see. Do you want the name of the person sending, Paula? Do you want, we should be reading the name into, okay, so this letter comes from Michael J. Grandone, just says owner, president of IT Vending Company. It says, Mr. Pelletier, I'm in receipt of your letter about the meeting of October 21st pertaining to Auburn's proposed food regulations. I write to you a bit puzzled because I'm a vending company in Worcester who neither sells, serves, or delivers food, nor do I do it in anywhere as my livelihood. The closest thing I have for food is prepackaged candy and snacks from major manufacturers I place in vending machines. Was this letter sent to me in error? Perhaps think I'm a caterer or provide a food service. So in the code, well, that could be answered in the code. Anything to, I mean, it's clearly laid out in the code of vending machines, I thought. I know that's non-PHFs.
Ray,
Yes.
if I may.
Sure.
In 590, 105, 590, we have a code reference for vending machines. Andy and I had discussed this because I think in years past, vending machines were permitted individually here. So if an establishment had a vending machine, they did get a permit. Through information and discussion with the State Department of Public Health, they had explained to us that they are the licensing authority for vending companies.
Okay.
However, they also did explain that they, as many municipalities, don't have enough staff to check every vending machine that they license. So they will respond to complaints and so forth, follow up on those type of things. And through our discussion, Andy and I felt that, you know, for the most part, vending machines that have prepackaged candy and drinks, those vending machines are put in places that people don't have access to regular food, so typically, those types of foods and drinks do get rotated just by process of using them. However, we felt that any potentially hazardous foods, some of the factories and businesses that will have, some of them actually have cooling units where they'll have cold sandwiches.
Tuna sandwiches, I've seen those, yes.
Or hot sandwiches, or we even have like a pizza-making machine.
Yep.
You know, those type of machines, we felt that we want to have some more oversight on those, just because they have the potential for, if those type of foods don't get rotated, you know, there's a lot more things that have the potential to go wrong there.
Okay.
We had extensive conversations regarding vending machines throughout, God, 8 months of meetings. And the reason that IT vending would be specifically affected, he made claim that he doesn't do any prepared food, it's all prepackaged food. So what affects him is he will no longer have to be permitted. Under the food establishment definition, food establishments shall include those establishments identified in 105 CMR 590002. So everything in the code is going to be a food establishment. In addition to that, vending machines, vending any potentially
PHS.
hazardous foods.
Okay.
So that would, by default, omit those that aren't doing potentially
His
hazardous.
potato chips, his candy bars are not gonna be an
We'll-
issue.
we'll
The
put a
only
phone
issue
call.
with candy bars is the heat. But that's not gonna make it bad, it's just gonna make it melted.
So we'll call him tomorrow and let
Okay.
him know that how it affects him is that he is now not going to be required to get permits.
For those types of
For
machines.
those types of
Should he
machines.
choose to
Right.
Yeah.
put
If
a
he changes
dairy
a machine and puts a milk machine in, you know, then we're gonna need to do
Or
that.
Whole
mayonnaise.
different.
Mayonnaise. Well, it depends. There's some, I have a thing on mayonnaise, and if it's commercial, it can be kept at room temperature. Okay, the next one is, this one is from Bob Tacho. He actually speaks to both of the hearings, so I am going to, I will just deal with the food ones first, then we can bring up the other one, the hearing. So this one is from Robert Tatro. His only two concerns are, where would an approved potable water source be? And if I'm catering an event in a field like the annual Walk for Cancer, would I be able to use water from a house tap? Okay, potable water can be gotten different places, but I know you can't use a regular hose. It has to be a food-safe hose to fill your water tanks. From that, I mean, a potable water, you know, if you can use the Elks, you can use the places like that that have a kitchen can be used. I don't know about home. I know you can't use it out of a garden hose.
I believe that this isn't necessarily a question to the regulations.
Yeah, it's
The-
more-
The state already has a regulation that potable water must be used.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a statement more towards operation and
Okay.
that we could deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
So his question,
Keeping in mind that as soon as they serve 25 people, it becomes a public water source and they can't be using,
Yeah.
they can't be using a well, they can't be using water that came through a house and then it's coming out through a different system.
Exactly.
So that's something that Darlene will deal with on a case-by-case basis, and we've always had success finding,
Okay.
you know, we'll make it work for the people.
Sure.
that all comes out of the state code that we're adopting.
Correct.
And
So-
there's, you know, a lot of the people that do these type of events, you know, they are charitable events, and there's usually a lot of people that are willing to allow use of a already licensed kitchen.
Yeah.
So a lot of the churches and so forth will allow somebody who is going to be assisting with food preparation to use a licensed kitchen that has public water.
Yep.
Okay.
The third and final one we have is from Coco's Tropical Ice. It's Donna Raposo. She said, I am unable to attend the Board of Health meeting on Monday night due to another engagement. Is there anything directly affects Coco's? Is the annual event permit new, and will I need to have this as well as my mobile permit for my cart? The annual event permit is new. Her cart would be, does she have a truck?
If I may.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I did respond to Ms. Raposo. The.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah, the response that I did send to her was unique for her questions, but it is general in nature. So she has actually several licenses with us. She has a brick and mortar building that we license as a food service and a retail food establishment, but she additionally has a push cart that we license separately as a mobile food. So she covers both her establishment, and she does a number of fairs and events in town that she licenses her own push cart separately. So the annual event permit that I explained to her, she would not need that particular permit because she has a unique piece of equipment that she licenses.
It's almost like having a mobile food vendor.
Exactly.
So,
So I did respond to Ms. Raposo.
all right, not a problem. I will now open it up to the floor. If anybody would like to come up, if you could just say your name when you get up there and give us your concerns. If you'd like to have a seat next to Darlene, that'd be great. Oh, if we had a seat for you.
Hi, I'm Deb Pope. My question is about the requirement for the variance. What does it involve?
Is this regarding your operation?
Yeah,
You're already,
I have a special permit.
you exist.
You exist,
So
and
I
your
am-
variance,
am I- I
your
am
variance is already
grandfathered?
there.
I'm grandfathered under that?
You actually came in and requested a decision by the board. So it's not so much grandfathering as approval. You are approved to,
Well, what would it, since I know that I am the teeming horde of one in the town for a residential kitchen, what would it be for someone else? Would it be the same thing I went through? Or would it be something more intimidating and prohibitive or expensive? Would it require someone who's starting a cottage industry because they need money to consult attorneys, which would cost them money?
just to refresh the board,
This is the
we
residential
have
kitchen
one
we have in
residential kitchen
town.
in town.
Specialized cookies. I remember.
Oh, that's right.
The process that we put on paper is essentially the same process that it wasn't on paper then, it was a policy at the time.
Right, and you put me
What we
through it.
essentially doing by requiring approval, the state code allows residential kitchens.
Yeah,
We've had some applicants for residential kitchens that there were concerns that brought it to our attention that maybe we should regulate these further. The reason we're putting it on paper is not to disallow them, nor to make it harder to get one of them. You would have to go through the same process, whether the board approved it or whether we approved it at our level.
so perhaps it would, shouldn't call it a variance then? It's not really a variance?
The way we wrote it in the law is residential kitchens will be allowed with Board of Health approval.
Yes.
Okay.
Yours,
So we're not-
at your point, we actually took your case and we folded it into the thing. So you guys were you were the start of our reasoning behind our residential kitchen regulations. So you were the kind of, I want to say, you were like the beta tester. We did it with you, we wanted to see how it runs. It worked out, things went well, and we're following that model. Not everybody's gonna fall into the same model as you do,
Right.
but this is the base model that we can work off of, and you were more or less the starting point for us. You were, I think, our first in a long time that we've had one, so we used you as, I think that when I was reading and we were adopting the regulations and looking into it, I know I looked back at your case and said, okay, what did we do here? How does that sound? I know Andy looks like he has a little something different.
Your case is actually the reason I wanted to make a route for this to happen. Before you came in, I had a lot of proposals for residential kitchens that just scared the heck out of me. Your case, I brought before the board, we discussed it, I saw what you're doing up there, I'm very impressed with what you're doing up there, and I said, maybe these things aren't as scary. I like the process we put you through, because it ensured the board knew what was going on in town, and it ensured we got proper review on it. But, your case is the reason that, instead of variance, I suggested to the board that maybe we should make it with approval rather than, so it's not something outside thinking, it's something that we just want to have an
Because I
inside
saw
knowledge of.
variance, and I thought,
I don't think it's a variance, I think it's with,
there's a paragraph on variance.
Says
Variance.
variance.
10.010,
Second to the last page.
page 8.
second to last page?
The variance requirement, in addition to requirements set forth in 105 CMR
I'm sorry, I did write
599,
variance.
residents
The
can show
intent-
variance may be obtained from the Board of Health to establish. Yeah.
Variance is, the word can be struck in, I don't think it's a huge thing.
We're still permitting residential kitchens
Permitting,
from
I
the
think
state
permitting
code.
is- Yeah, because to me, with my background, you say variance, and I think, that's a whole different ball of wax.
And the residential kitchens still must comply with the entire state code as
Oh,
well
right.
as the town regulations for food protection.
Right,
Right.
perhaps,
If the board would consider it, we could strike variance requirements, strike the words variance requirements. In addition to the requirements set forth in 105 CMR 590-009D, residential kitchens. And
Approval must be obtained from
Will
the Board of
be-
Health.
Permitting?
Well, I would think a
Special-
permit is,
require,
permit is required.
approval.
And a special
Special permit?
permit?
Does it require a special permit, just a residential kitchen permit?
No, from
But
you.
I think, but the thoughts were that this board should be the one to decide if they can exist on it.
Yes, it was a requirement.
So residential kitchens,
Why would a residential kitchen, I'm just looking for the
Yep.
rationale, why would the board need to review a kitchen plan for a commercial bakery versus a residential?
With the residential, there's a whole section of the code on residential. There's a lot more, there's strict, there's separation of private food from public food, there's separation, there is a requirement for separate refrigerators and stuff like that, separate storage. So we've always, it was one of those things where we wanted approval because a lot of the ones that Andy got in the past just weren't there. And I don't know, why we get those and not the bakery ones. I do enough plan reviews, I don't want to have to do any here, but I think it wasn't a special permit, but it wasn't that we just wanted to start licensing, we wanted more eyes on it.
Right.
It wasn't just the inspector looking at it.
Yeah.
It was more eyes on what was going on, because then we could discuss, because it's so tight in the code and it's so convoluted the way they write it, that with more eyes on it, it was better that if somebody missed something, because I even remember in that meeting with you, Marion said something that Andy and I both went, like, we're both food guys, and we went, oh yeah, Marion's right. So I think it was the more eyes on it was the reason we did it the first time. And I think when we were going over the things, I was just, when Andy wrote it in there, I read it and said, yes, we've done that, and I like that, so. Because a residential kitchen is a whole nother monster. It's so different from any other kitchen. I don't know if Darlene's done residential kitchens in town, but you must have done them in other towns, and it is a whole different monster. It is so much different than a regular inspection.
so just to be clear, so that I understand as well, so the 1999 Federal Food Code does not allow for residential kitchens. The state, Massachusetts,
Does.
allows for residential kitchens. The town of Auburn has discussed it and requires that a residential kitchen be approved by the board. So obviously you've
I'm all
been-
set, but
Yes,
my
Chris, I-
concern was the variance business, and that
Right.
was just language.
Yes, I believe it's
Yeah.
just the language.
So for going forward, for any new residential kitchens, is one of your questions, does every residential kitchen have to follow the requirements that you have gone through?
That wasn't my question. My concern was variance, and it's not a variance. So it's the permitting.
It was a variance when you got yours because it's not allowed in one code, but it is in the other, so we had to make a decision. So at that point, it's a variance. Now we've written into our code, now it's not so much a variance. I think it was just a language changeover.
Yeah, that's just.
So that was it. Now that we've adopted that we will allow residential kitchens, it's a stringent, there's a lot to go into. I've seen it in one of the codes I'm working with now, and it's,
Residential kitchens, as Ray said, are potentially quagmires.
Yes.
You cannot bring your cat into the 99 kitchen.
yes.
You can't tell the residents they can't have a cat. You cannot sleep in a public food
Right.
facility. You can't tell a resident they
They
can't.
can't sleep in
So
their
there's a lot
house.
more under consideration. This was really just an attempt to make sure the board was aware that they exist in town. If it pleased the board, I can rewrite this section to say residential kitchens will be allowed with Board of Health approval. Or I can put special, whatever language you want me to rewrite this. Or if the board wants it gone and just go by the state code, I can do that too.
Right. Now, bear with me.
Or if you
being-
want to keep
being-
it variance.
Being a medical professional and not a food specialist like you guys are, out in the field, reviewing these plans, doing site inspections, how comfortable would you be with all your knowledge to say, this meets the regulation and approve it?
I've done 2 this week, and between, well, I'm
As-
sorry,
As
on
opposed
Thursday.
to specifically approve the plan for the permit,
I,
as opposed to having some like, I'm not quite sure about this, and then
I-
bring it to the board
I haven't
for
done I haven't done a
determination.
plan review on one, but I've done 2 inspections, one today, one last week. And I walk in there and I didn't approve the plans, and I say to the people, why is this here? Why is this here? You can't have this. What is this going on? You can't have this. So, and I would not feel comfortable approving a plan myself, and I've been doing plan approvals. I just approved the Pub 99 and all these other
Right.
stores going in. I have no problem approving a commercial place because
Right.
the code is cut and dry.
Right. What
I
I'm
will-
just trying to get at is to reduce the workload of the day-to-day staff, to enable the entrepreneurs the ability to move forward with their business plan. Approval is approval, and if there's a question, then bring it to the board for approval versus denial, as opposed to Andy gets out there, Darlene gets out there, you're in the field, you get out there, and you see something that, everything looks picture perfect according to the regulations. To say, you meet all requirements of the regulations, permits approved, and it's just the one and done. You know, and I know it's not just once,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work involved with it, as opposed to you get out to your site visit, and there are some issues that you're concerned about, well, you can't put that rubber stamp of approval on, let's go to the board and sit down and talk to the board and let the board make that decision.
I will say, Ray and I talked about residential kitchens,
Yeah,
and because of the hardship of the residential kitchen, we felt that the board should be aware that they exist, that's why we put it in there. Darlene and I have talked about residential kitchens, and she looked at me and says, why do you want to treat them special? So, you're right, it's a full spectrum. We could easily go through and permit them at the inspectional level, at the operations level, without bringing them to the board. It was an option to more accurately let the board, not more accurately, to more effectively let the board know that they are existing and that they are the ones approving them.
right.
Again, I don't have a problem striking it. It's almost at the end, so even renumbering the rest of them wouldn't be hard.
Well, I think it's important that we maintain a residential kitchen permit, yes. But I'm just trying to think of workflow, and especially if the board goes into a once-a-month meeting. You know, if Darlene, you get out there, you've got the plan, you reviewed the plan, you do your site visit, everything is matching up, bing, 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 and everything meets the code. Why should we have to have you pile everything up, put it aside for the next board meeting 3-4 weeks down the road, have the business owner kind of put their life on hold until the board meets to get the approval? Or is that an uncomfortable decision that you would want to make, and you'd rather leave it to the board to make the approval?
Well, let me just let you know, under 590, we do have the requirements for residential kitchens.
Yes.
I have come from experience where I didn't have this requirement in other towns that I've worked in. So I did the plan review, did the inspections and so forth, and did license them if they passed all of their requirements. So when I came to Auburn and when I had discussions with Andy, It is something that I wasn't familiar with before, and I can certainly appreciate why the board might want some oversight in this area, because as Ray has indicated, it's not always, it's not like going into a commercial establishment. When you enter somebody's home, for the purposes of permitting for this particular, for permitting food that's gonna be sold to the public, it's almost kit gloves. So you have to make some judgment calls in the field. Obviously, we go according to what the requirements are set by the state. But I've been in kitchens where it's not a comfortable feeling that you can't actually move forward and say, I can't give you a permit.
So at that point, you would want to bring it to the board for that determination, which I would agree with.
Yeah, and certainly I can see both sides of it. So I think, just from my experience, residential kitchens, just like anything, take a lot of education and a lot of planning and review with the applicant prior to you ever going out to do the inspection, because if people understand what they're required to do, sometimes they might say, no, I don't want to do that. But let them make that decision. You know, give them the information and let them make an informed decision. So I certainly will do whatever the board wants. I certainly can understand both parts of it. We'll follow the requirements for the state, but it is something that it's not like going into a commercial kitchen.
Right.
Going into somebody's home is a little bit different when you have to put those requirements down.
And it is a touchy, I've been out there, I did one where it was great. They took the garage and they turned it into a commercial kitchen, and it was like walking into the back of a restaurant. So it was nice, and I did a conditional approval. As long as you do this, and this, you are approved. Just get me all that stuff, and then we do an opening. The day you get your food in, we're gonna come in, we're gonna do another inspection. I've been to some where I couldn't walk in the kitchen. It was almost like going into a hoarder's house. So at that point, when you have this woman who's been baking cakes all her lives, and now she lost her kitchen, and now she wants to do it out of her house, it's very difficult to tell them, no, you can't do this. I've told them, you have a lot of work to do. Here's the paperwork I want you to do. And then I brought it back to the office and said, hey, we need to discuss this. This is what's going on. So,
My thought, and if I'm being clear, is you're the inspector doing the site visit, you've reviewed the plans, everything matches up to code, everything, when you go in there, is what you would expect a commercial kitchen to be in a resident. We're gonna schedule a board hearing for 3 weeks down the road, you're gonna sit before the board and say, this place is great, it meets all the qualifications, it meets the code to the T. Can we have an approval? And the board's gonna look at you and say, meets all the code, it's approved. As opposed to, you've got 99 out of 100 things correct, but there's that one last thing, bring it to the board. Is there a problem with approving it right based on?
I'm gonna do two total sides of the coin here. First side, 14 years I've been here, and nobody can argue, I have always tried to put as much authority into the hands of the board as possible. I've never asked for authority to sign off on beaver permits, even if they're blatantly obvious, because the law says it belongs to the Board of Health, not to the agent of the Board of Health. Having said that, I've never shied away from responsibility either. If you feel that this is overkill and that this should be removed, I would, and again, I'm speaking in absentia because I'll be gone in a week, I will take as much authority as the board wants to give me.
No, I'm not talking
With
about
the
striking
caution,
it.
with the caution that I don't even live in the town of Auburn. So decisions I make that affect the town of Auburn should really be decisions made by residents of the town of Auburn, who is the Board of Health. I should carry out the policy of those who make the decisions.
can we change the language to final approval by the Board of Health?
Again, if we do that, well, Steve's same enigma. Somebody
Well, I
will
understand
pass
that, but-
everything, but have to wait the 3 weeks for the board meeting.
Well, if Darlene goes in and says, okay, you have conditional approval, we just have to put it in front of the board. It's a little bit different than what Steve's saying. Instead of her saying you have to wait, it's conditional approval, you're in the running, and she's gonna come and if she said, I think that they should do it, she's gonna come with, like you used to do when we used to do the plan reviews on septic and wells and all that stuff. They'd come up, and you would say, okay, my recommendation is they get this because of A, B, C, D. And I think 95 to 98% of the time, we said, okay, Andy's recommendation makes sense. Yes, we're gonna do this variance because it's not gonna affect the wetlands, it's not gonna affect this. And you had already given conditional approval at that point. So I think it's the same thing with these things, is conditional approval would be, okay, you're all set with me, we're just gonna get in front of the board and drop it in for a full approval. I mean, that's the way I look at it, just because I'm not saying that Darlene's or whoever is in that position is gonna miss something, but sometimes the more eyes on it, the better. Like we've seen in other things in the past, people pick stuff up that others miss.
Specific to your example, we used to bring Title Vs to the board.
And we handed that back.
And at our level, we have no problem approving Title Vs.
Yep.
At our level, we have no problem approving these. Board of Health does not even see Title Vs now,
Nope.
unless there's a problem
Unless
or a
there's an
variance
issue,
request. And I'm speaking for Dal, but I assume she's on the page with me. If you want to strike this completely and make it as any other review, there are guidelines in the code for residential kitchens. There's nothing in the code that would say that it should go for further review than meet the code. So if the board is comfortable with Darlene doing the reviews on these and only bringing them if there's issues, then I don't see why we wouldn't strike it, as long as Ms. Coyle is comfortable with it.
Again, I'm gonna do whatever the board wants me to do. So, you know, this is really, you put it in here for a reason. There was some sort of purpose that it came to be, and you have to decide if you feel that it's something that you wanna continue with.
We put it in here because I was nervous as heck about residential kitchens. I've
What are we
had
gonna change
several,
looking at it from the
several offers of residential kitchens that eventually backed out, and then Miss Pope came in, and there was nothing to make her back out. She was doing everything right, I was impressed with her operation, and at that point, I was like, I'm scared to death of residential kitchens, let's put it before the board. And that's why we put it in there, is because of a long history of non-compliance, and then, you know, sometimes they are approvable.
So, we just want to discuss amongst the board, so what are we looking at? Striking or changing the verbiage, or how do you feel?
I would agree with, we're permitting residential kitchens pursuant to the state code. My question, as I presented initially, does the board need to review and approve an acceptable review of the plan and inspection of the site? I would definitely see the benefit if the inspector or the director has a concern about a particular permit application, to then bring it to the board for final determination. I'm just curious about the workflow for the office staff and any interruptions it may create for the entrepreneur that's trying to put this together, if everything meets code, to give them that approval.
According to the code, on any food plan review, you have 30 days. So if they dropped it off today, being the 21st, we have 30 days. Now, if we find a mistake and they have to, if the plan is not complete, or we find a mistake, and we have to have them resubmit, the 30 days starts again. So I know what you're saying about putting it in front of the board in 3 weeks, and sometimes people don't get to those plan reviews till 2 weeks into them sitting on the desk, and now they're gonna look at it and say, oh geez, they didn't have this, 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 and this. You gotta send a letter out saying you need to do this, and then the 30 days starts over. So there is a time, I mean, you could get that plan review done in 3 days, send them a letter out, and they're ready to go.
Right.
But that doesn't always happen. I think the reason we put this in is because of the verbiage. We put variance, all variances have to go in front of the Board of Health. I think that's when we were talking about it, because we had never had any in town, we wrote it up as a variance to the code, because it wasn't in the federal, but it was in the state. That's correct, right? It wasn't in the federal, it was in the state. So we put it in as a variance, and that's why it had to go in front of the Board of Health, because it was a variance. All variances have to be approved by the board.
But now it's in the code.
And now, if we change the word from variance, now it's in the code. So that is where the question comes in, do we need to keep it as, do we have to review? I'll tell you, the reason when Andy brought those Title Vs in front of us and said, do you guys still want to see these? Title V is a blur to me. It's Greek. So when you bring me a Title V, all I do is look at numbers. How many feet does it have to be away? What's the this? What's that? Okay. And the code says what? And that's it. I don't understand anything else about it. I don't understand the drainage, the 6-inch, the 9-inch, the 12-inch that they have to do when they're doing all this stuff. I don't get that. I'm gonna learn it, but right now I don't. Food, if someone brings something in front of me, I can pick up on it like that. And I think that's when Andy said, well, what about these Title Vs? Because we were getting 5 and 6, and we're like, look, Andy, don't bring them to us anymore. We don't care about Title V. Not that we don't care, it was only bring us the variances. If it approves, if it passes, then why are we seeing septic? You know, he would bring us and say, oh, so-and-so passed, so-and-so passed, so-and-so passed. Okay, they passed, then go ahead, sign off on them. You know, and I understand you're saying the same thing of Darlene. If Darlene comes in and says, this kitchen passed, I'm just, like Andy said, I'm not a big fan of residential kitchens because of all the, if you have a dog and you have a residential kitchen and you're selling food at a thing and some dog hair gets on it, somebody gets sick, that's where it comes down to. There's so many issues. I had a woman on the phone, she wanted to do a residential kitchen. I asked her if she had pets. I have 3 cats and a dog. I said, can you keep the cats out of the kitchen? She goes, forever? I said, yep. She said, no. I said, well, that makes it difficult. Because you want to set up as a commercial kitchen, you can't have animals where you're cooking. I said, are you a smoker? Well, my husband is. Does he smoke in the house? She said, yes. I said, not if you're gonna put a residential kitchen in. So there are a lot of things, there are a lot of questions about that, but, if you guys, if the board votes to take it out and just keep it as a regular one, that's fine. Just we all have to know when it comes up to a variance, if something happens and we do, because there are gonna be, like other restaurants, they don't have a mop sink, they don't have this, we have to write a variance, or we have to see a variance. If you guys are okay with that, then I will go along with whatever the vote is. Whether, if I vote nay and you vote yes, then I'm gonna follow what the vote is. That's why we each have our own, vote, and it's, you know, we can have a 2-1, we can have a 3-0, we can have a 1-2. It doesn't affect me. I just want everybody to have their opinion heard, so everybody can, do what they wanna do, and I'm fine with that. I'm not looking, I understand what you're saying about the workload, but hopefully we get a second inspector in here, to help Darlene out, because Darlene is gonna be, we've seen how this department runs with one, inspector, and it's very difficult, so we're hoping we can get some help for Darlene in here, get things moving in the right direction. And yes, I don't like, I'll tell you right now, where I work, we do not have a policy board. No. What kind of board are we? We're a policy board. Yes. We do not have a policy board, so nothing goes in front of the Board of Health out there. We do it all ourselves. And sometimes, when we get lawyers calling us and questioning us, I wish I had a policy board that could pull some of that away from the thing. Because when you have a vote of 3-0 or 2-1, and then they come up and say, well, it was voted upon, and that's the way it is. It's a little easier for the directors and the people working the department. It's kind of like the buck stops here. If everything Andy had to do that we approve, if everything went to Andy, it would be, oh, it was Andy's fault, it was Andy's fault. Here, they can blame the board, and it's easier to blame a board of 3 than, well, they're still gonna blame Andy, but, you know, the board does make the decision. So, I know Darlene said she'll do what the board does, but Darlene, do you feel that if you went out and found one, you could open one up? Do you have faith that you could handle that and not, you know, if there was an issue, you could deal with the issue, bring a variance to us if there was a question?
Well, I have.
You have.
I have in the past,
And I'm-
I've opened several. So, again, I'm gonna do whatever the board directs.
But I
me.
don't wanna hear that you're gonna do what we tell you to do or we ask you to do. If you feel that you can do it and it's not gonna adversely affect everything else, then I'm fine with it.
I'm comfortable with it.
Okay.
I just, and I completely understand the fact that the residential kitchen in the code is significantly more complicated than just a standard commercial kitchen.
Yep.
But if our inspectors are confidently out there doing their job, which they're trained and paid to do, why are we needing to review as a board a permit for residential versus a commercial? How many commercial light permits are being issued on an annual basis?
280?
We're not looking at them all. We're looking at the ones you guys are having problems with. And that's what I feel we should be doing with the residential kitchens. Our staff is well-trained to let them do their job, and if they should have a concern with a review of a plan or a site or anything, as they do with any other permit reviews, bring it to the board for discussion and vote. That's just.
That's fine. I understand your opinion. I look at it as it's being so new to the town.
Yes.
As much as Darlene has done it in other towns, it is new to the town, and I think it would take, us learning about residential
Right,
kitchens
right.
and stuff like that. So, no, I'm fine with it.
And
I got the answer I wanted from Darlene. I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure we can back her on whatever decision she makes.
And I would have absolutely no problem if every single residential kitchen permit request we have, you bring it to the board. But I just want it that, as any other commercial kitchen application, if the staff feels right on top of it, and that it meets all the requirements of the code, that they're empowered to just, like any other kitchen permit.
One thing I would request, because residential kitchens are so difficult, can we post them as high risk? You know how schools are considered a high risk because of the population? Can residential kitchens be posted as high risk because we should get into them twice a year? Or actually, they're supposed to be doing non-PHF food, so at that point, they're a low risk or medium. So which, Darlene, yeah.
If I may?
Yeah.
The food, the end product has to be something that doesn't require.
Refrigeration, it's supposed to be non-PHF.
Non-potentially hazardous food, so, I think if you're looking to have oversight on the residential kitchens, what you could do, if you as a board wanted to have oversight on those, obviously the state allows it, so the state of Massachusetts has requirements for what the residential kitchen. If you wanted to further put restrictions on those, such as no pets are allowed in a residential kitchen, so no smoking or no other environmental contaminant. You can't do a residential kitchen if you're on a private well. You know what I mean? Those are things questions that come up that you have to kind of look at and see, okay, if you had a private well for a residential kitchen, are you going to, as the board, going to require that the well be tested twice a year, 3 times a year?
Yeah.
Those are things that you can those are actually things that I've had to deal with in the past, so that's kind of a gray area.
Yep.
And that can be a discussion that you can have, at some point going further, if you wanted to modify this residential kitchen language that you have here. So if the board decides that, okay, we're gonna let the department handle residential kitchen permitting just as they would for any other commercial establishment, such as what Steve is proposing. However, for residential kitchens, we as a board feel that we don't want to have any animals allowed in a residential kitchen, and you can identify domestic animals, cats, dogs, birds. You don't want to have private wells, you don't want to have septic systems, If you want to further restrict the residential kitchen or have oversight, those are things that you may, look at and decide whether or not you want. Keeping in mind, the state has these already identified, the particular requirements that we look at when we do plan reviews. But figure out where you want to, are you good with these set of rules, or do you want to consider any other restrictions on them?
Just a quick question. I'm just a little rusty. When you're doing the cooks or chefs in a residential kitchen, do they have to follow all the same food code as everything else? No jewelry, no nail polish, all that stuff. That's still already in the code, correct?
So, would have to follow, the 590, 105, 590 is what we have to follow for these specific requirements, but we still make them get a copy of the codes,
Okay.
make sure that they're following, you know, all the safe food handling practices, have their food certifications in place, so you're still requiring the person that's handling the food be a certified food handler.
Right, the code still applies.
Yes, okay. That's right. So do we have any, does anybody want to make a motion or recommendation on the section of the code that is, what is it, page 8? 10.
Well, I think it would be important to keep it, but
You can change the
instead of
verbiage.
instead of calling it a variance requirement, just in addition to requirements set forth in 105 CMR 59009D, residential kitchens, a permit must be obtained from the Board of Health to establish and/or operate.
Okay.
And I'm not familiar with the specific section in the CMR in regards to residential kitchens to see.
Residential kitchens are defined as a food establishment, so therefore, under the code, they have to be permitted with the Board of Health.
Right.
It would be a redundant statement.
Just to put that,
We would have to
Put that in
just
it.
strike the whole section.
You wouldn't, I mean, you can put the statement in there, but it's
But
redundant
it's
to
the
what's
same
already in
thing.
the
It's
code.
already- it's
Okay.
already-
My recommendation would be either to keep it before the board or strike the section, with the understanding that anything that strays from the code obviously would have to come to the board anyhow.
right. But it's already part of the code.
And I wouldn't be put
So
off if it's struck.
so then it's covered
Right.
right there.
So if it's a consensus of the board to strike it, I don't see a detriment.
And then in regards to the discussion on how much board oversight is required, that could be more of a department policy that we have our director of health or our inspectors or whoever's doing the plan reviews discuss it with the board prior to issuing. But that's not a regulation because it's already part of the CMR.
I know a lot of times Darlene will bring new, she'll say, oh, we have new permits, or we
Right,
have application for
right.
permits. She can bring that up at the same time and say, we have 3 residential kitchens who are applying for permits, and this is what I'm doing with them, so I'm fine with that. If anybody wants to put a motion out on what to do with section 10.010 residential kitchens, I will take a motion.
I'll make that motion to strike that section based on the fact that it is already covered in the state code that we've adopted.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay, how does everybody vote? It is a change, so we have to do a roll call. Marion, how do you vote?
Aye.
Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ray votes aye. 3-0 to strike residential kitchens from the code, knowing that it's going to fall under food establishments.
Way to go, Deb.
Hey, well, you know, it really
Your
wasn't that,
voice is heard.
It
really
was,
wasn't that hard.
No, but it's a very,
If Andy helped me, I think that what scares people is they start reading that reg and they freak. But if you just read it, paragraph by paragraph, it's really not, it's there, you just have to do what they say and go through. It's not that bad. You people shouldn't be so scared. Huh?
Puppy cookies are good.
Yeah, puppy cookies are fine.
Okay, I need a motion to close the hearing.
I make that motion.
second.
All right, we have a motion, a second to
Thank you,
close the
Deb.
hearing. How does everybody vote?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0 to close the hearing. Thank you very much for your, it was great. Thank you. Okay, it is now, 7:50, and it is still October 21st, 2013, Monday evening. And now we are going on to the fee schedule. Adopting the fee schedule.
we have a hearing, and we closed the hearing on the,
On that, do we need, oh, that's right, we
are
didn't
we
vote.
going to make a
Okay.
decision on it? Are we going to act on it?
Do I have a motion to act on, because I closed the hearing, but when this is now, we vote on the, that was close the evidentiary, since we never closed the evidentiary. So now we have, does anybody want to make a motion on the regulations.
It would be a motion to either approve,
Approve?
deny, or continue. I think every concern that was brought up has been addressed, so
Yep. I don't see a
if
point in,
if it's to approve, it will have to be with the amended,
Modification.
with the amendment
Yeah.
of striking 1010,
All right.
1001, 10.
So let me make a motion to approve the Chapter 10 Food Protection Code
with the
with the amended striking of Section 10.010.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve the Chapter 10 Food Protection Code with
Hi, Steve.
the omission or the striking of Section 10.010 residential kitchens. It is a roll call vote. Marion Howard, how do you vote?
Yes?
And Stephen Norberg, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ray Gothier votes aye, so it is approved. The new regulations are in approval.
What I will do, I will strike section 10.010. I will renumber 011, 012. And then I will put a date of adoption as today's date, which is October
21st.
21.
And you have to put it on the front page,
2013.
too.
I will put it on the front page too, where, chapter, yep. And I will get a copy for the next meeting for the signatures of the board members.
Excellent.
It will be predated to today's date, but it
Yes.
will be, well, signed
But it'll be
next week.
completed. Okay.
And the vote is now, so even though it's not signed,
It starts.
do we want enactment now or upon signature?
How do you, Yeah.
I have a question. Do we have, obviously, we're voting on the reg with the amendment, or with the striking of that. Andy will renumber it. We'll bring it officially for your signature, but do we have, are we able to put it into effect until we
Have to send it
advertise
to
it?
DEP.
I think we have to advertise it.
I'll look at 31. I'll make sure for the next
Okay.
meeting that everything is copacetic. I know we do have to send it to DEP. We also adopted it under Chapter 94, 146, which is going to require us to send it to the state. So I believe we can enact it, and if they find a problem with it, that section gets struck in or whatever.
Exactly.
But
Send it back for.
I'll ensure we won't, I would recommend we don't enact it until the next meeting.
Okay, that's fine, until signatures are in place.
Until signatures in place, that will give us time to do research and find out if we're,
Or whatever.
yep, that'll give us time to research if we have a
Okay.
waiting period.
All right, now I just need a motion to close that hearing totally.
I make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to close the hearing. How do you vote? Aye.
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 3-0 to close the hearing. Okay, let's try this again. We have a hearing on the fee schedule. It is October 21st. It is now 7:54. As it is right now, we have no one here to speak on the code, on the, I'm sorry, on the,
Fee schedule.
fee schedule. Thank you, Marion. I lost my mind for a second. We did have one question that came from Robert Tatro again. Would the permit fees for nonprofits be affected? Yes,
Yes.
because now nonprofits,
Pursuant to,
pursuant to the state code that they found, that they're gonna write up for us,
Chapter 94, Section 328.
I'm gonna write that down. So, chapter 94, what, section what?
328,
And what code is that it?
that's general law.
Just Mass General, MGL, okay. And you said section 328?
Chapter 94, Section 328.
Okay, just wanna make sure I have it correct.
Ray?
Yes.
Just, if I may, when we had discussions with the state, it's commonly known as the Good Samaritan Food Law.
That's what that's called? Okay,
Yeah. I mean, you don't,
No.
not officially on the reg, but
No.
just so you know, like in common terminology, that's how they refer to it.
okay, excellent. All right, so, the only question was Mr. Bob Tatro, And yes, Mr. Tatro, they would be affected, and it's gonna be affected in a good way. So if you have a nonprofit organization that normally does food with us and pay for a permit, as long as you can show your, what's it called?
The tax
Tax
exemption
exempt
certification ID.
certification, what's it called? One, it's got a number.
501c3.
501c3, if
Nonprofit.
nonprofit
Status.
status card. If you have that, then you will not be paying for a permit for your organization.
You still need the permit.
You still need a permit, you will not be paying a permit fee. Okay, you still have to turn in your menu and all that stuff, but there will be no charge. Does anybody have any evidence?
Open the hearing? We've opened the hearing. right?
Yes.
Yes, I opened it. Do we have any evidence from anybody besides the listing of the fees?
Just like to state that the fees, as close as I could possibly do it, were based upon, we did an audit between 3 different towns on how long it takes to do the inspections on these things, on how long it takes to do reviews on these things. And I tried to base the proposed fees on the actual time at a rate of $50 per hour, with a few exceptions that I felt were just way too huge a jump. Like, case in point, a grocery store. We are proposing a grocery store at $500. To truly do it, it would be more like $800, assuming 6 hours to do a grocery store twice a year is 12 hours plus at least a 2-hour review. A re-inspection each time. So I felt that that jump would have been too extreme, so I cut it back a little bit. But essentially, all of the proposed numbers are based on time. And then I also did an audit of surrounding towns and found out what theirs were to make sure that we were not at the top of the list. I don't feel that we should be the most expensive town to operate in, but I don't think we're doing justice to the taxpayer if we're making them supplement services specific to one entity, so I tried not to be at the bottom of the pile either. I would ask the board to consider, Steve, you were talking some language for nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, just basically stating the fee for the nonprofits be just simply listed as pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter
Okay.
94, Section
So we
328.
wouldn't put $0, we would just put,
Right. Should the state decide to assess a fee
We could just,
I would like to
the
have
fee
the
would come
town-
out, yep.
pursuant to that regulation?
question for board discussion. We proposed it, but we never put a price on it. And Ray, you've mentioned this a million times.
A million
We go
times.
in and do an inspection. We go back and do a re-inspection because we're gonna find violations of
Yeah,
the
you're always gonna
inspection.
find violations.
We go back and do a re-inspection and we find the violations still exist, not new violations, same violations. We're gonna have to go back and do a third one, so you had proposed that we do a cost for re-inspections beyond one, but we
Yes.
never put a fee on that cost.
I thought we had talked about 40. I thought that was something we had mentioned in the past.
I don't recollect it, but
Okay.
we may have. And I leave it to the board right now to, I would say a third re-inspection would be going in there, raising our voice a little bit, but it's still gonna be a half-hour inspection. Third re-inspection.
Minimum.
I would have to respectfully disagree. If you're going into a place a third time because they're not compliant on the second time, I know that recently, you and I have been on some places, and it's at least an hour.
And that's why I had
So-
said 40. I know it's not quite the $50 range we were at. I don't know if we want to hit the 50. I think, I've seen in the past that there are, other towns do it. I've seen them bringing them in for, if they don't have a policy-making board, they've brought in places that just cannot do what they need to do. We've done it here. We brought in different places because you can't babysit everybody, Darlene, and you know that already. But if we have places out there that we're going to every 2 to 3 weeks, it's taking your time away from these other people who paid for their permits and are doing the right thing, and we're not getting to them, which is causing a hardship on them, a hardship on us, a hardship on the people in town, that I think they should be paying for the extra time. I've always said that, it's been one of my proponents since I've been on the board, that if we're babysitting someone, they know they're doing wrong, and they have to stop paying for the inspector to be there. I don't know if we do an hourly rate, or if we just say, you come back after beyond your second inspection, we have to go back, that's your third inspection. Now, they're not doing it, that means they don't, I don't wanna say they don't care, but they're not fixing the problem, that's the issue. And that could result in closure down the road, but if we don't stay on top of it, that could also be a FBI case. Could be a foodborne illness case, there could be something going on, and if it's not being corrected, I don't want that to fall on the board, not on the board, but on this is opposite of the residential kitchen thing. The residential kitchen thing, we want to give you all that power to make sure that these kitchens are being done and you're able to say, yes, they know what they're doing. But when it comes to this, I think we need to set something in place saying, hey, you're taking up too much of the time, you're allotted, we do 2 inspections per year, plus a re-inspection if needed, which 90% of the time they should have a second inspection. They do more than that, it's costing the town money. It's not, their permit is not paying for their inspections. And that's how we kind of base our fees, is if you're paying $200, you're probably gonna get like an hour inspection, and then a half-hour re-inspection, and then maybe another hour inspection, another half-hour re-inspection. I mean, that only makes up to the 3 hours, but it kinda, it may be a 2-hour inspection. But we've been behind before, and a lot of times we've been behind, it's because we're babysitting. And I don't think it's up to our inspectors to babysit restaurants. They need to be told, no, this is the way it is, this is what you have to do, and this is why.
So you would recommend a $40 inspection or hourly rate? I believe an hourly rate will become burdensome on the department.
Yes, so I would say either, I'd like to, that's just my opinion, but now if we're saying it's gonna, someplace it's taking about an hour, and if we're looking at our fees per hour, at $50 per hour, then I think $50 per hour, $50 for that X inspection would be, I think it would be fine.
50, you said?
50 is how I feel, it would be what the board
Yep.
feels comfortable with.
With the same amount of time, be,
It depends. I mean, sometimes it may be less time, sometimes it may be more, but I think getting a fee for that re-inspection
I agree with that.
is gonna help out, because you're gonna spend now, if Darlene, who's supposed to work 40 hours, works 60 hours in a week, which she sometimes does.
happens.
No, never happens. It's time she's taking away from other work. If she has to go back to place X every week because they're not following what they're supposed to be doing, we need to account for that. So that way, the money goes into the general fund or whatever. Now, if something happens and we need to bring somebody in to help out, we can request monies and say, look, this is what's going on with the town. We've had 22 restaurants that have been, hopefully not that many, but say 20 restaurants, that's $1,000. Maybe we can find some monies to bring a contractor or something to help get us caught up or something. But I think we need to, if we're not bringing in any kind of money, and I know you said it in the past, you don't want us to be a money-making board, we should, we're not in, but when
Shouldn't
people.
be a money-losing board.
No, exactly. If people we're going to places, and I'll tell you, when Matt was here, we were at a place 8 times. And over a 3-month period, we were there 8 times, and each inspection, the first inspection was 2 hours, the next one after that was an hour and 10 minutes, the next one after that was 45, then it went back up to an hour. That's costing us time. It dropped his numbers from 56% down to 38% because he was spending so much time, and then he was writing letters and everything like that. I think we need to account for our time. If we're pulling Darlene away from X, Y, and Z because she's spending so much time on B, we need to account for that time. And people have to be, there is a code, and it's a minimum standards code for anybody who's listening. This is not, we're not asking people to be 100% on everything. This is the minimum standards code. If you can't make the minimum standards, you should not be open.
Okay.
And that's the way I look at it. Any questions, concerns? Am I being too hard?
No, I think 50 is a legit number. I think it does, it's a burden on the department to babysit the places.
And even a 20-minute re-inspection visit.
You gotta
still-
drive there, you gotta do the paperwork, you gotta do everything.
Absolutely.
It takes time.
Absolutely. Yep.
A 2-hour inspection is actually a 3.5 hour by the time you're done with everything else.
Right.
When you come back and do all the paperwork, you have to send out a letter, you're looking at time to write.
So
the letter.
re-inspection beyond,
Beyond the you have a first inspection, then you usually get one re-inspection within either 24 hours if it's critical, or 2 weeks, you know.
Right.
Now, my question to you, Darlene, you have to shut down an ice machine, and you have other stuff at that same location. If you tell them they have to have the ice machine within 24 hours, do you consider that your second inspection, or is that just a ice machine inspection?
Well, when I do have to shut down ice machines, and it does happen, basically what I do while I'm on site is shut it, you know, have them shut it down, have them unplug it, have them do whatever they need to do. Often, they're looking to get other staff in there to do it,
Yep.
whether their own staff or they're gonna hire a professional. So if they are able to provide some sort of documentation, that they've hired a professional and get that to us,
Yep.
that, you know, that helps in making the determination
Okay.
of how to, you know, move forward. It's about creating the relationship and, you know, the trust of making sure that operator is doing what they're supposed to be doing. They, you know, I require documentation on a lot of different things, and it's because we have, you know, we have to be in a lot of different places at one time. So if that documentation doesn't match up with the inspection when I go back, then you have to question, okay,
Yeah.
documentation isn't really worth what the paper it's printed on. So it's kind of like, looking at the whole picture and making determination in the field.
Yeah, I do that, when I, if I shut down an ice machine and it's a place that I know they're not gonna fax me or stuff, I go back in 24 hours, but I don't consider that their re-inspection. I just
Right.
consider it just a drop by for the ice machine, and then if I've given them 7 to 14 days for the other stuff, the other one is my true inspection, re-inspection. So I just wanna make sure we make that clear. If I'm coming back the next day for a ice machine, that's not the second inspection. They're gonna be all nervous. You're coming back in 7 days, are you gonna charge me? I just want,
Right.
there are certain things that are 24-hour period that you have to either call on and check.
A re-inspection is based on violation, not
Yes.
on, so if you voted somebody to fix something in 24, and then something else in 48, and something else in 96,
It's all the same.
all three of those inspections are
Are one.
one re-inspection
Just
because
wanna-
they're meeting your
I
date
just
time.
in
I just
different
wanna make that
sections.
clear.
Right.
Yeah, okay,
Okay,
that's good.
good. But I would add the word each re-inspection after the, you know,
Yeah.
you're talking about a
Yeah.
restaurant where
Yeah.
you went back 8 times. I don't want the
That's
owner
six-
to misinterpret the fee schedule to say,
Oh, $50 for all the.
One-time
$50 and you can
Yeah,
come
no.
as
No,
many
it would
times
be
as
three-
you
It would be
want.
$300.
For $50, you can run my restaurant for me.
So,
Exactly.
so just, I don't know, word-
No,
add the
no.
word each,
Yeah.
or,
Each re-inspection beyond the first re-inspection would be $50. I'm okay with that.
I think that's fair.
just so that it's clear.
Yes, no, that's fine. The
Yeah,
word- Yeah, we
it's-
wanna make sure the wordage is clear, so that they can't come back and say, well, no, that's not what it says. It says re-inspection beyond one of $50. That could be, like you said, that could be 10 re-inspections,
Yeah.
$50.
Right, one
So,
fee.
no, that makes
Okay.
sense. Definitely makes sense.
And quite honestly, I mean, this is gonna be for situations where people just aren't,
It's,
they're not getting it.
if we collect $200 a year, we collect $200 a year. I don't see it happening, but there are places in the past we've had to babysit, and it took away a lot of time, especially when we only had a part-time inspector. I was working 19 hours a week, and 5 hours a week we're dealing with this one place.
I also think that if we collect $200 from one establishment, maybe next time around, they'll be more responsive. I think it'll give incentives.
And I would almost hope that by the time we need to assess them that $50 re-inspection fee, that they're coming before the board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Any other questions or concerns on the fee schedule? I need a motion to close the evidentiary and discussion part of the hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, how do you vote?
Aye.
aye.
Aye, 3-0 to close the evidence and discussion part of the hearing. At this point, does anybody have a motion to make?
Can I make a recommendation before?
You can make a
I-
recommendation.
And can it start with a question to Paula? If we approve this thing on the 18th, will that still give you time to get the notifications out? All the restaurants basically saying your food permits are due.
If we wait till the 18th of November. Is that too tight?
That's very tight.
My concern is we're going to adopt something without having an answer on recreational camps. We've got to do research to find out if Town of Auburn adopted that law. Or the board can plan on adopting it at $50, with the understanding that bylaws are probably going to be reviewed, and they will have opportunity to propose to the selectmen to change it at that point, if it's changeable.
If I may.
Mm-hmm.
If I could offer an opinion, I would, if we're able to, at least wait until the next meeting to adopt it, because the camps are a lot of work, and to have a fee that really doesn't reflect how much work is involved, I think would be a disservice.
I just, we want to get the renewals out based on the new fee schedule.
Oh.
And if we can't get them out based on a new fee schedule,
We're gonna be a whole year behind on
We
the
don't.
fees.
So are we able to, we would have to pick a number that,
we could just put pending.
Recreation camp.
We could, pu-
could we put pending and then do an amendment after, or would we have
I think
to
we can do an
do
amendment.
a public hearing again?
I would recommend we continue it and get the letters out at the last week of November. My recommendation to the board would be, even though it's gonna be a hardship on the office, to hold this until we can research this number.
A lot of them will be late, a lot of them have to go to the main offices and across the state, and their checks
Mail.
won't be in by the 31st of December.
Mail can get across the country in 3 days.
But the checks are, like, if they get it on the 24th of December and send a check out on the 26th, and because of some reason we don't get to the 1st, it's gonna be dated the right time.
We'll check.
I-
We would check post dates.
Yeah, the postage on the outside of the thing is gonna tell you when they mailed it, so I understand what you're saying, because it is gonna be difficult, we are gonna have a lot of permits going out all at once, but I wanna make sure these get into this permit, this fee schedule gets in.
Here's the thing, the camp permit that we're talking about, really, we won't have camps until next spring.
Yep.
So I don't want to cause,
No ice
Do they
skating,
have camp regs?
Oh, yeah.
what's up?
no ice skating camps or hockey camps.
Summer
or-
camps, they're very specifically,
Campgrounds.
Yeah. The recreational camps are different, I don't like camps,
Not
there are a
to my
lot of
knowledge.
work, you gotta go through the whole binder and
I
check
don't like the theory
everything.
behind camps.
No.
You have to follow all of these rules if you have a summer program, but if you have a winter program,
Program,
you
you don't
don't.
have to, yeah, it makes no sense.
So what are we waiting for specifically?
That's something,
We
the camp,
have to find out if the town of Auburn, and very specifically, there's a law, a Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 122, let's make up. I know we adopted it specific to the police department. It allows us to set fees above and beyond. What I need is a legal opinion. By adopting it for the police department, did we adopt it through the town generally? Because the Mass General Law currently allows us to set recreational camp permits at $50, no more than 50. We're proposing 200 because they are a headache.
And when do you expect the first application for a recreational camp permit to hit the
Until
door?
the
Let's
spring.
see, they're supposed to be in 60 days before the event, so the event starts June 3rd, it'll be in June 2nd.
June 2nd, yeah, I know,
Literally.
yeah, we'd run into the same
Could
problem.
we leave that to be determined and then just have a hearing down the road?
I think we could,
To add
even if
that
we
as
have
an
to
amendment?
advertise it.
Yeah.
Or we can keep in touch with Hennigan. So we can keep it at $50 for now, as we have it right now. Keep in touch with Hennigan, and if the bylaws pass, then the selectmen are gonna have to adopt all these regs anyhow. So we can just propose it to the selectmen to change that one to 200. We won't have to have a hearing because the selectmen will schedule a hearing.
So you wanna
If it's not
would
gonna
it be-
pass in time,
Would it
then
be
we can have
easier
the
if we
hearing.
put it at 200 and then they had to knock it back and
We
well,
can't set it at 200 if we haven't adopted that law.
oh, so they have to adopt first.
That's what we need
Right,
to
and then-
So we need to
clarify
find out if
legal.
the town has
We
adopted
have to
that law.
send $50
Do you
for
want
it.
me to get the
I would just go for the 50.
I would go, just so we have an
If-
amount down.
If we have it down,
was
we
adopted
have
on there.
everything else
Yeah,
here.
everything else is ready
And then
to
if we
go.
get information that we did adopt that,
All right,
and
let's,
we can bump it up to the 200, then we
Then
can
we
send
do
a
it.
letter to the
We know what the
selectmen with
appeal
my
says.
recommendations.
Right.
That one
We don't know
line,
what the conditions the town adopted.
It was adopted, but it's adopted for that specific purpose for
but I
police.
don't want to
Right,
lose
so
a year.
No, exactly, I wanna get these out, so,
Can we-
let's,
We might be able to,
make a motion.
by adopting it,
So,
by
So
adopting.
let's see,
Okay, we're gonna-
We might
which
have to
line here?
adopt it generally.
With the
You know what I mean?
camps.
Because our goal was this, we might have had to
page, recreational
determination by Hennigan.
camps, it was 200,
Is
so.
this it here, recreational camp permit?
Yep,
Recreational camp permit.
so I would do that.
200.
I'm going to
Okay.
make
Steve's gonna make
a motion to accept the Board of Health fee schedule as presented with the modification of a change of the fee for recreational camp permits to be $50 as currently allowed by law,
Okay, with the additional,
and the additional re-inspections, each re-inspection beyond one at the rate of $50 per inspection. And the nonprofits, church fee would be pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 94, Section 328.
So just to clarify, we're gonna have the nonprofit and the church. Are we gonna take church out completely, or are we just gonna make it nonprofit? We'll put those
What
two
entity is
together.
recognized under 94, Section 328?
And do you have my copy?
I think I can find it. No, I gave it back to you. How is that about deflecting responsibility?
nonprofits.
I think it just says nonprofits.
No nonprofit corporation.
No nonprofit corporation shall distribute or serve food of any establishment.
I'm just asking so that we have it on the fee schedule.
They talk about no nonprofits. No nonprofit corporation shall distribute or serve food from any establishment unless that corporation has been inspected and is in compliance with all inspections or permit requirements of the department and the Board of Health in the city or town in which the food is to be distributed.
Okay.
So basically, that statement says that they cannot serve food unless it's in compliance with the laws. However, no fee shall be charged for any such permit issued to such corporation. So we have to go through the same burden as anybody else, as any other applicant, but we can't.
We can't charge them.
Right. But it specifically says nonprofit, not
Well,
church.
Photocopy that after, please? Thank you.
Do we want to leave churches in or strike it out completely?
It's.
Because
They are
the state
considered-
code does not the Mass General Law does not specify churches, it specifies nonprofits.
Nonprofits, which they are nonprofit, and most of them do have that.
Right.
Yes.
Thing, so, yeah, I mean, that's a call. If we want to just change it to nonprofit organization, that, I have no issue with that. I don't think there's any issue in the code if we change it.
Is
Well,
there,
the only clarification is, I think, Andy, on our current fee schedule, we have churches listed, right?
Yeah,
a
yeah, we have
church.
churches. So I don't know if we should leave it on there because the fee schedule already has churches, and then we can show that it's pursuant to the code.
question, is there any church out there
That is a profit.
that did not receive nonprofit status?
Don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
That's why we should leave it at nonprofit if they're, and that way they fall under
Yeah, it's a
a
general.
kitchen.
Yeah.
We can figure them out as a retail, not a retail kitchen, but a food service kitchen. If they don't have, if, that's true, you are right. If they are not, if they do not have their
Nonprofit?
nonprofit
standing.
standing, then they become a less than 75 seats or more than 75,
Right.
and that's
They
the.
fall under the general
it-
permitting.
Yep, if they, yeah, I
So
think
we'll
that's fine.
We'll strike
So
church,
strike
I
churches.
strike church.
okay,
All right, so your
and we'll leave it nonprofit.
motion is,
To accept the fee schedule with the following modifications. Nonprofit organization clubs pursuant to Mass General Law 94, Section 328, striking churches with that fee, adding each reinspection beyond one to be $50 per inspection, No changes to the second page, and on the last page, the recreational camp permit to be $50.
As set by Massachusetts state law, right? That's the
As
mass,
stated
that's
by the
state.
current-
You wanted to say as stated by the, no.
We don't have to.
Well-
Don't
have
state
to.
that, because if
Okay.
we override that law,
Okay, all right, yeah. Do we have a second on the motion?
I make that. Second?
So we have a second and a motion on the table, and this is to accept the fee schedule, so this will be a roll call vote. Marion, how do you vote?
Aye.
Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ray votes aye. The fee schedule is accepted
hire a consultant.
as written with the amendments set forth by Steve.
Okay, and what I will do is, again, draft these up. We will enact these right away so we can get the
Yeah.
letters out.
Exactly.
But, for the next meeting, I will have a date in the amended line, and I will have 3 lines for signature at the next meeting.
Excellent. Okay, as of this point, our next meeting is scheduled for, looks like 6 o'clock on November 18th.
We voted to approve the fees, we did not vote to close the hearing.
So I am not going to talk about the next meeting because we haven't voted to close the hearing.
Motion to
tonight.
close the meeting?
Do we
Hearing.
close the hearing? Do we have a second on closing the hearing?
Second.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0 to close the hearing.
Okay, I know it's getting late, I need 2 more minutes of your time if I can.
No, it's not on the schedule.
Back, it is on the schedule, back to emergency planning.
You said that was over and done with.
No, I didn't. Yeah. I am stepping away from Auburn, as stated previously.
Yes.
I would request that the board consider appointing Ms. Darlene Coyle as the Board of Health of Auburn representative to the BT Region 2 Coalition. I would ask that the Board of Health appoint Ms. Darlene Coyle as the PIO for specifically for the Board of Health, not the Town of Auburn, but for the Board of Health of the Town of Auburn.
Do we have a second choice?
Board of Health, what?
PIO,
No.
Public Information Officer.
Nobody heard that. That's a good thing. Just Steve. I said, do we have I said, do we have a second choice? And he goes, you. I said, no. So Steve makes the motion to accept
I
that.
do believe Ray went through PIO training.
Yes, I did go through PIO training. I don't want it. Motion was made by Steve. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
To make Darlene do everything?
Yes.
All right, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Two hands up. Aye.
We're gonna need it in writing, so if the board will okay a signature of Mr. Ray, what we will do is I will draft a letter basically stating that the board has voted Darlene to be the representative of the Town of Auburn. I will get that letter to Ray. I'll drop it in your mailbox, and
Sign it and drop
when
it
you
back
sign
here.
it, you can
That's
drop.
fine. Are you guys okay with me signing that?
Absolutely.
All right, I will sign.
Very cool.
The smiley face.
And I am done.
Okay. At this point in time, at this end of the meeting, I'd like to thank Andy for his service to the town and thank him for all the work he's done with the Board of Health. Many people don't realize, but we have a trailer, we have an AM radio, we have a generator on that trailer. We have a lot of stuff that we probably wouldn't have gotten if we didn't have Andy pushing for the town. And I want to thank you for all our toys, everything we got that's really helping out with our, everything we do. A lot of it where we have the trailer goes everywhere, and I'm very happy with what you've done when you've been here. I've been on the board for 4.5 years, and I've been real happy to work with you, and I'm gonna miss working with you because you did teach me a lot, and you got a lot of stuff going for the town, and I think a lot of people don't realize all the stuff that the town has that wouldn't be here if we didn't have Andy as a director. So I wanna thank Andy for his service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, if there's no more comments, I'll take a motion to close the meeting.
I make that motion.
Second.
Meeting is closed. Thank you very much. Have a good night.